Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable, folks. I'm your host, Josh Turner. They call me Wolf. You can call me whatever you want. Just show up and listen. Got some things to talk about here. We have some things we got to do, too, because we have some sponsorships that are asking to be sponsors, and I want to pick something that I use or I'm okay with, and something that's not going to annoy my audience. You know, I just want to make sure that we're not getting, something that you're just going like, I don't want to see this ad, but something that we can be okay with, to advertise to you, because we do need some help to keep the show going. We're going to have to look into some sponsorships. Just different things we got to take care of the show. We got to do things. One way you can help the show, well, first of all, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. That's the coordinates. Patreon.com/prtpodcast. We are going to make a serious push this week. We have a lot to do. We got a lot of stuff to record, but we're going to try and make it happen this week. We're going to get in there, right, Anthony?
Yeah, definitely. We have to.
We're going to get the Patreon people squared away who haven't gotten their stuff. There's several people that have gotten their stuff, or a bunch of people have, but some people haven't. And if you've upgraded, then you need to get the stuff that you upgraded for that you didn't get. Now, if you are a $40 tier, and somebody asked me this question, and maybe they didn't hear the when I told them this on the show, they said, "Do I get a whole new swag bag?" No, Evan, you don't. Okay. And then I looked. Turns out he's not even a Patreon member, but I think he was trying to figure out where.
Yeah,
so,
if you should get in early on the ground and then just keep moving up.
So I was thinking he was going to go get a $40 tier and then go get it. I was like, "You're telling me what you're going to do? Come on, man. Don't do that to us, Evan." He was like, no. I was just trying to figure out which I get the better deal with. And he wanted to make sure that whichever one you got locked into, you're not stuck there. And I said, you could always upgrade, and then you'll get whatever the extra was supposed to be for that swag bag. So that's how that works, folks. It's a great way to help support the show. Another thing people are saying is if they don't want to donate to the chat, there's another way we can do that. You can put the PayPal link up there for anybody.
The PayPal link is also in the description of all of our videos.
Yeah.
It should say donate, and then there should be like a little link to the right of it. You just click that link, and it'll take you directly to PayPal.
And then if you want to do that, you can do that. So that's that. We got to get that out of the way. Whatever. Tuesday's show is coming up. What are we doing? It's Dogman attacks, but it's not. It's two different people's stories, and we go into detail with them. And so, yeah, they were attacked by Dogman, but they didn't take it lying down. They fought back. And I believe them. I think that this is probably something that happened. I mean, some people want to, just any little thing, any reason to not believe that these things are villains. I mean, whether you believe that they're good or bad or whatever, the fact is that they do attack people. And I don't give a crap what anybody says. I argue with you all day long. I'm not going to sit here and try to be proselytize. If you don't want to believe it, don't believe it. Go and do it at your own risk. Okay? So what happened today, Anthony? We went to yesterday. We were at the Paranormal.
Yeah, we were at the. I think it's called the
San Antonio Paranormal Festival.
Yeah, San Antonio Paranormal Festival at the. It's called Victoria's Black Swan Inn, which I thought it was just like a little hotel or something. No, this is like a big, like old plantation house, like spooky run. Like the whole property is just like it's this big house. This rundown house that at one time was really beautiful, but it's all like decrepit now. It's haunted as all hell, and there's like a bunch of like rundown little buildings like barns, and like there's like a big silo behind it. But anyway, they had the Paranormal Festival there. It was really cool. We met Ken and Ann there. Ken was a speaker there, of course. He was really popular.
Ken who?
Ken Gerhard.
Gerhard?
Yeah, Ken Gerhard.
Yeah.
Ken
Gerhard.
Gerhard.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it was Ken and Gerhard and Celine. We met them there, and they had their own booth or whatever. And Ken was actually in the process of giving his speech when I walked up, and I thought it was pretty cool. Like, he didn't even know I was there, and he was actually referencing me and my work in his speech. So I thought that was cool. He was talking about Dogman at that point, and he mentioned my hometown, and he mentioned because Ken was heavily involved in doing a lot of research, helping out, and doing starting with last year's conference, I guess. He really started doing a lot of research. And, so he was going to do a presentation. He didn't end up having to do one at our conference this year. He interviewed a lot of people and came to the conclusion that Dogman is a real thing. He just doesn't know what it is. I mean, you talk to 40, 50 people about it, there's going to be some stuff, He didn't talk to all of them. We divided it up, but we had a bunch of people that I had interviewed that he cross-examined them, I guess you could say, and was given some heavy input by him and Barton and David Weatherly and Lyle Blackburn and Nick Redfern on the books that I wrote. So I had a lot of them giving me feedback, and that's to me, if you're going to do something, if you're going to be a podcaster, then you go to successful podcasters to figure out how to do it, or live streamers, whatever your platform is. And if you're going to write books, like I said before, you go to people who write books. You're going to learn how to write, or you go to writers. You learn how to draw. You go to artists. And so I think we did the right thing. If the books are doing well, put the links up to the books up there. We made some friends, like Champs Lemonade. Those people were really nice. It was Chris and Ariel over at the Collectors Convention. We went to the Collectors Convention today, and it was off the chain. It was unreal. There were like, I can't even, what was it, like 190 vendors or some crap? It was unbelievable.
Yeah, they filled the whole auditorium.
Huge crowd of people. And made some good friends and got a couple stories. And at the Paranormal Festival, I got some really crazy stories. Today, ended up with 2 emails in my inbox as soon as I woke up, and I was like, wow, this is great. Sorry that these things happened to some of these people because they were pretty terrifying. But just standing there shooting the breeze with some of the vendors and some of the goers, I'd say I got 6 stories out of that conference right off the top that I can use, and at least probably another 7 or 8 that are probably going to email me. 2 that I got emailed today. I didn't get to go through those and figure those out yet, but I think it was very fruitful for us. Now, that being said, there were some people that were there who I wouldn't buy anything from them if they were paying me to buy it, take it, because they I don't know, man. There was some pretty dark energy in some of those booths.
Oh, yeah.
Not talking crap, but, I mean, there were some people that were, like, obviously on the dark side, and I was repelled by it. I just was like, whatever, The house, the Black Swan Inn, I knew it was haunted. I had no idea how much it was haunted. Walking into that place, it hits you like a wave. It's just like immediately, and you're like, can't breathe. If you're me and you're sensitive, some people say I'm psychic, some people say I'm sensitive. I don't know what I am, but I felt it immediately. My wife is an empath, and she was just like, this is not my thing. And I ended up walking around a little bit around the house because I wanted to see what the house looked like.
Yeah,
it was more my thing, And you could tell at one time it was a beautiful, like, antebellum house.
Yeah,
it was from 1830s or whatever. Went into the house, went to a side hallway into a room they called the portal room, right? They call it the portal room.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? I didn't know because I thought you and Ann had gone in there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd gone in there once by myself, and then once I'd taken Ann in there, but I didn't know that they had a name for it.
Yeah, it was. The energy of that room was rough, and it was hot. It was weird. It was cool. Then you walk in there and it's hot, and you're like, "What is this?" And then
it was weird because the first time that I went in that room, it wasn't hot, and then maybe an hour later, Yeah, Anne had not seen the house, so I just gave her the tour, and we went in that room, and it was like real hot for some reason. There's no reason for it.
No reason at all. And last night was nice and cool. It wasn't hot. There was a nice little breeze blowing. I think it was like 78 degrees or something, and the breeze was blowing, which made it feel cooler. And then you go into the house, and it feels comfortable. Then you go to that room, and you're like, oh, what in the heck? Stale, stagnant, dark spiritual energy. And I kid you not, folks. I am not joking. It was not. Wouldn't recommend it. Just, and then last night we raced back to the hotel. And I got situated, and then I jumped on Bettina's show for like an hour and a half or something with her and Abe Cius, and that was cool. We did we talked about a lot of stuff, went over a lot of cases. We talked about Mark DeLeon's encounter with the knot deer, and he gave me a picture, and I gave it to Bettina. I don't know if she posted it in the Paranormal Roundtable group or not. But it's of a goat. It's very rough. I'm not going to post it. But something took a humongous bite out of its midsection. It's just there. So I don't know if she posted it or not. I was approving some stuff earlier in the group, so I don't know. But you can go check that out, and I'm sure she probably posted it maybe on her own page.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. It's like half its torso was just gone.
Yeah. Somebody asked a question here. Let me get my glasses on. Let me get my eyes in first. It's a problem I was having at the convention today, looking at stuff, and I'm like, what am I looking at? I can't even read the dates on these things. Quantum Potential says, Josh, are you still pumping iron? What's the best brand of whey isolate protein to get? I want to beef up 40 pounds just in case I happen up on a Dogman and need to defend myself. Thanks. Well, first of all, old chap, you misspelled thanks. You left the A out. I'm joking, folks. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Quantum Potential. Let me say something, okay? There's a lot of different types of proteins out there, and most of them are the same. They're not gonna. But the one thing I saw recently is that there is a vegetable whey protein, which is an oxymoron.
There's no
That's
such
impossible.
thing.
Yeah, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. Whey protein in and of itself is dairy. So I don't know what these people are selling, and I don't know how they're going to tell you that this is a vegetable whey protein. There is no vegetable-based whey. They can call it that. I mean, like I said before, I'm on the show. I can call myself Tarzan King of Mars. It doesn't make it true. But that's the one thing you need to do, though. Okay, is if you're going to gain 40 pounds, I would say you need to start bulking up on rice and pasta. And you need to eat a lot of meat. And don't be afraid to eat fat. Now, I don't eat fatty meat, and I don't eat a lot of rice and pasta. But if that's what you're trying to do, and you want to gain 40 pounds, then that's the way you want to go.
Yeah, stay away from lean.
Yeah, stay away from just lean fish and things like that's not going to help you. Shade Viking says, get more sleep. Well, that for most people, that's what they need. I don't sleep much, so that's not me. But most people do need sleep. I will say this. If you're going to do, and you need to lift, and you want to lift, I'm going to tell you this right now, folks, and then we'll get to the stories and all that stuff. But you need to lift heavy. Low repetitions with heavy weight. Now, I'm different. People ask me all the time what I do. And Anthony can attest to this. I lift what to me feels like moderate weight, and I do 3 sets of 20. And I do anywhere between 30 and 40 upper body exercises, and I do about 1,000 to 1,200 reps on legs when I do legs. That's me. My workout it will destroy you. Barton Nunley came down last October, and he felt like he was going to die. Like, we thought we may have to call the ambulance for him. He did a third of what my workout is, right? About a third?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not bragging. Barton, tough guy to be able to finish and do that 14, whatever.
We've tried to put guys like half his age through it, and they quit.
They can't do it. They cry. One guy got a nosebleed. One guy threw up. Well, a couple people threw up. Mm-hmm. And they're like, and I'm not joking. I'm talking big, tough, strong guys like, yeah, I can do your workout, bro. Yeah, sure you can. Whatever. And they get in there and they get sick. So Ben says, tell us a Dogman story. Anyways, like I'm saying, before we get into that, can we not do that, Ben? I'm sitting here talking, and we're not doing this machine gun story time. We're going to do stories, don't worry. But this guy's asking a question, and I'm telling him. So what you need to do is lift really, really heavy, okay? If you don't lift heavy, you're not going to get bigger. Now, I can tell you something. You can get bigger without getting stronger, okay? But you're not going to get stronger without getting bigger. So you're going for strength and you're going for size. You're going to need to lift like 3/4 of what you're able to do. And what you need to do is go really, really heavy. Okay, so about 3/4 of what you could do max. Find out your maxes on shoulder press, bench press, all these different ones. Then you figure out, that's okay, Ben. Didn't mean to snap at you, but I get aggravated with that. And plus we're letting the chat fill up. So what you need to do, eat. I would say if he's going to do that, probably eat a lot of fatty meat.
Yeah. It should be your primary source of nutrition. Secondary should be carbs.
Carbs, yeah. And don't be afraid to eat carbs. Now, people are like, don't eat carbs. Well, that's if you're like me. I can't eat a lot of carbs. I got to stop eating carbs, or I had to stop eating carbs. Kind of destroyed my diet the last couple of days because I was, in San Antonio I didn't have meal preps or anything to do. And supplementation is also big. So you got to do supplements. A lot of people take creatine. I don't take creatine. Some people take HMB, which is kind of like about half as good as creatine, but we haven't found anything that would really do as much as creatine would do. Somebody says buffering.
It's fine on my end. They might just have to turn the quality down.
Yeah.
On their end.
So what you need to do is be consistent too. I would say every third day go back into the gym and hit heavy. But if you're really sore, don't do it. Take another day. But if you're just moderately sore, you can still go to the gym. That's my policy, and that's what I do. That's what works for me. Some people want to do, like, they just want to go full on all the time. That would require you to be eating. Thank you for that donation, William Bedard. I would say you're going to have to don't be afraid to rest, but don't take too much rest. Just kind of in between. Some people, like, they don't want to rest. It's every that requires your body healing itself. You need to take vitamins. The most important thing you need to do, I would say, is take what a standard like multivitamin, a men's multivitamin.
Yeah, definitely.
What is the blue company that we use through Yvonne? They have good quality.
I think the name of that company is like Life Extension or something like that. Like everything they make comes in a blue bottle.
Yeah, text
that's
Nelly
what you're
and ask
talking
her,
about,
and
right?
we can put it up there later.
Okay.
So that's it. That's pretty much. Somebody says, how tall are you? Well, if I'm a 6'4", but I've lost about a half inch of my height because I have compressed vertebrae in my back. So that's it. Fasting helps too. No, it does not. Fasting helps if you're me and you need to lose fat. I would say fasting. Fasting does not help for the person that was asking the question. What was his name?
Quantum Potential.
Quantum Potential. So this isn't a platform to talk about all this because people are going to get aggravated because they want to be, listening to the paranormal. But if you're serious about it, just message me and maybe I can help you. It's one of the things I wanted to do, though, originally with this live stream was to just kind of, talk about various things and then throw some paranormal in there. We could talk about theory and conjecture and all this stuff, postulate. But it didn't work out that way. We just ended up telling stories on Sunday and a little bit on Friday and then letting the guests talk on Friday. Now, Friday, if you missed Fridays.
You missed out on a good one.
Yeah, Friday was Paul Sinclair was just knocking it out of the park. It was like a home run derby. And I didn't have to do a bunch of talking. I just had him talking. Felt like that guy over there on the other show that doesn't do nothing but let people talk and just sits there and doesn't add anything. But I added stuff, so that's the difference. Now, I will say this. Somebody says, you ride bikes. No, I don't. No, I do not. When I lost a bunch of weight, and I lost like 140 pounds at one time, I did nothing cardio related. I lost 142 pounds to be exact. I did not do cardio because if you get really big, like I was, and you get, and I had a lot of muscle. I mean, I was built like a power lifter, but I was fat too. And so one of the things I did, I just lifted weights moderately, and then I ate healthy, very healthy, and I dropped the weight. I took in less than 2,000 calories a day for about 4 or 5 months, 4.5 months, whatever, and then I started working out hard, and I just stripped all that fat off of me. Not one bit of cardio besides walking, because you'll tear up your knees if you get really fat or obese, or if you're just really bulky and big. You're going to tear up your knees, and then you're going to do what, Anthony? What's going to happen to your body?
There's going to be a bunch of free radicals released into your body, and
Which
and
ages you.
Yeah, and then if you have any muscle mass, something that's going to happen. It's going to be called. It's going to get catabolized.
Your heart will enlarge.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens to these people who end up getting an enlarged heart? Now, I went to the doctor about 3 months ago. They did an echocardiogram. There was no significant enlarging of my heart. That's because I did it correctly. That's my advice to you. But I would say stay away from fast food, fried foods, just anything like that. I would stay completely away from that. I would stay away from bread of any kind. Unless you're like quantum guy. What's his name? Quantum
Potential.
Quantum Potential. Just stay away from it. Okay. So what you need to do is just keep at it though. Be consistent with the weightlifting. Don't stop. Okay. And just if you're gonna train and you're trying to gain 40 pounds, I would say eat up everything in sight. I would. I mean, make hamburgers at home or something. Like it's okay. I don't eat much red meat, but for you, eat beef, eat steak, and just do that. So that's and if you're gonna eat chicken, I would say eat thighs. Something that has more fat on it. That's my a personal opinion. Now, I wouldn't eat a lot. It says Artistic Bunny says cheesy bread. I wouldn't eat a lot of dairy, just for the simple fact that it's going to be a lot of fat. You're going to already be adding that fat from like one of the things our ancestors ate, and I talked to Chad Lewis about this, was beef tallow. And now here's a funny thing: the Wendigo is a creature that's said to be adverse to beef tallow. That is one of the ways that the Native Americans actually claim. Now, they weren't eating beef before the Europeans came, but the legend has become now to where, and look this up, I'm not joking, beef tallow is considered by different Native Americans as a repellent to the Wendigo shapeshifter.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So look
Even
it up,
one more
beef
use
tallow.
for it.
Chad Lewis, I believe, talked about it. Me and him kind of joked about that because I thought I was the only person who ever read that. When he talked about it at the conference. And I can't remember if he was telling somebody that or if it was his presentation because I was so tired. I had so much going on. But I remember laughing with him about it because that is part of the legend, that they are repelled by it. So if you were to coat yourself in it, you would repel the Wendigo, but then you'd be a tasty snack for a bear and wolves and cougars.
Or Dogman.
Or anything else that likes beef. But the Wendigo, you'd be safe. Okay, you'd be like, he's good. He's not.
I mean, you can shoot an animal. I wouldn't.
Well, you know why they
bank on
say that
shooting
though?
Wendigo. What?
Because the Wendigo is a strict cannibal. He doesn't eat other
yeah.
animals. So if you cover yourself in beef tallow or you use it, he's repulsed by it because he doesn't want to eat beef. He wants to eat humans. So that is the logic behind that. It's not just some random stuff, And so, hey, Larry, what's going on? Froetian, I see all the people here. Sugar Britches, Curious Realm. Hey, man, Wendigo only eats man. That's right, Curious Realm. Christopher Jordan, everyone. He's got a show, and that is the rumor, as they say. So here's what we got. I got some stories to tell you, and I'll start with this. I'm going to give you the option here. I got a couple vampire stories, pretty weird, and then we got. Let's see what we got here. We were going to talk about ghosts tonight, so and then people seeing objects turn into animals, and then there was one about a woman that gave me about her husband, which was really weird. Then another woman gave me stories from the Emily Morgan, which is a place that we stayed, and then there were two people that claimed to have seen vampires. And of course, I have a Dogman and a Bigfoot story that I could throw in there. So, where do you guys want to begin? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you still see yourself just watching YouTube and not doing anything? Great. We'll be there together. Artistic Bunny, thank you for that donation. Wendigo is a winter spirit. Not necessarily. It has to be around in the winter, of course, because according to the legends, it actually is typically caused by starvation, which happens in the winter. But people see these Wendigo type creatures in the summer. Now, let me ask you a question. We'll just talk about the Wendigo for a second here, since it kind of kicked it off. What do you guys think about the Wendigo's antlers? What do you guys think? Do you think that all Wendigo have antlers? Anybody know about that? Larry, thank you for that donation. Larry Fisher, Fisher and Sons Roofing. Give him a shout. You can find him on Facebook, and or you can get in touch with me, and I can get in touch with him for you. They didn't. That was a recent development. They didn't have antlers up until like the last 100 years or so. The pictures and they're depicting them, so that's a new thing. But, and I believe I've discussed this on the show. Probably at some point we discussed it. Hey, Samuel Lemon, very good email. Very good email. When we were driving back from San Antonio, your email, my wife read the email to me. I had already heard it, but she wanted to read it, and we were talking about that. And, you know, it was good. It was a very good email. Your thoughts on that were thought-provoking for me.
Yeah, I need to go back and save that email for myself because there was a lot to unpack there.
A lot to unpack. But you're on the right path, and it is sad what you were saying about how people don't listen. They don't want to hear it. And unfortunately, for somebody who has a lot of knowledge, that's your curse. The more you know, the more miserable you become because you feel impotent to do anything about it. And then when you try to do something about it, people oftentimes will just reject you out of hand because they don't want to listen to it. And if it challenges their religious beliefs in any way, oh man, people would rather just, eat glass than accept that they're wrong. I mean, I'm not joking. So you're on the right path, though. Thank you for that email, Samuel Lemon. That was a good read. It's good to hear other people that have the same kind of thoughts as I do, and we're on the same page. Yeah, that's yeah. I saw you at the conference there. It was good to meet you there. And Liberty, it was great to meet you too. I really enjoyed. I wish we could have ate dinner together. We did eat at the same restaurant, but not together because there were so many darn people in there. So, anyways, folks, we can start wherever you want, but we need to know something here. Let's take a vote. Who wants Dogman? Who wants Bigfoot? Who wants Vampire Story? I got 2 when I was in San Antonio, which was really trippy. And then we got ghosts, some really, really creepy stuff. And I'm going to talk about ghosts regardless because it's something that I think needs to be said. So, thank you.
Over.
Thank you
Oh.
for that donation.
Solovino, thank you. Is that how you say your name? Thank you
Very
so much for
generous.
that donation. We can definitely use it. We appreciate it. One of the things that I want to get started. Oh,
Ooh,
Kate. Oh my
Kate.
gosh.
Thank you
Wow.
so much.
That's very generous of you, Kate. Very, very generous. Goat Batman, please. Oh, that reminds me. I actually have a Bat Squatch story, and man, Barton has an epic one, dude. Like an epic one. Like his neighbor gave it to him. This guy that lives like a third of a mile down there, or a quarter mile down the road, gave it to him, and he told me about it, and I was like, oh my gosh. He said he'd come on the show and talk about it, but I told him he should use it to go and do it on his channel. Folks, do me a favor now. Barton has a channel. Can you call Barton on here real quick? Let me get him on here real quick.
Yep.
We're not going to keep it. I want Barton to say a couple words. If he's not busy, he might be babysitting the grandkids. I haven't even discussed this with him. I know Ken's still probably watching football. He's going to try and watch like 6 games. He got that Sunday ticket. And those people that were given the stories over at Ken's table. The lady down in South Texas. Now, I was on Bettina's show last night, and I talked about that case. They gave us, it was like and I know you didn't hear it, Tony, but it was like a Dogman, Bigfoot. Like, you know, and so Ken was like Gugwy, because that's what we, you know. And it's like an in-between thing. It was crazy, man. She said that it was like greenish black, which I think I know why that is.
Dogfoot.
Dogfoot.
Big dog.
Big man and Dogfoot. Let's see if I can message him. He's probably taking care of the grandkids. All right, stop it for there. He usually shows up in the chat, but we'll see if he's busy. Let's see. And while I'm at it, folks, go to Lyle Blackburn's channel if you don't mind and subscribe. He just moved a bunch of his stuff over to YouTube, and he has several podcast episodes. I don't know how many.
He just came out with a vampire one on Friday, which was very good.
You heard it?
I've heard a little bit of it, and it was actually really.
You heard a little bit of it. How do you know it's good if you heard a little bit of it?
I heard like 30 minutes of it.
Oh, well, then that's like half of it then.
Okay.
Why didn't you just say that? Listen, half of it. It was good. But yeah, so that hopefully Barton will call or text back, whatever. Maybe he's busy. But what we got going on with this is I want those guys. They have channels, and I want them to grow, just like I want Bettina's channel to grow. Go to Bettina's Crypto Normal Encounters and help her grow. She does really good work, and she has, yes, Dorothy, it is. Lyle's channel is awesome, just like Barton's is awesome, and so is Bettina's. And now Barton and Lyle are predominantly authors, but they have channels that they do, and so they basically are like the opposite of me. Like I'm a podcaster that wrote a couple of books. They're authors that have podcasts, so. If you would just go and show them some love on YouTube and go and subscribe to Lyle's channel and do me that favor, and then do the same for Barton. But I can't remember, is it in Humanoid Encounters with Barton Nunley?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, in Humanoid Encounters with Barton Nunley.
And Lyle's channel is just Lyle Blackburn.
It's just Lyle Blackburn, yeah. And so go over there, and then Bettina's is Crypto Normal Encounters with Bettina Moss. They were all at my conference, all good friends, do good work. It is so hot in here.
Yeah, let me get these.
It is bad. So, but that's what's going on. So here, people, y'all want the vampire, because people are asking. It looks, I don't know what.
Yeah, I think vampire I've seen quite a bit. Oh, thank you guys for the donations.
Read those real quick.
Madeline Chap, thank you for that $10. Hey Wolf, awesome show.
Put the camera on you while you're talking.
Hey Wolf, awesome shows you guys put out last 2 weeks. Really enjoyed the show with Bettina and Abe. Keep up the good work. Love you all. Even you, Tony. That's not very nice, Madeline. Barry said, had another $10 PRT fam.
All right. We got the AC on.
Stop burning up in here. Oh, let's see what else we got.
Didn't have that effect.
In fact, yep. There you go. Curious Realm. Can't forget that one as well.
Okay.
Make sure you guys also check that out.
Let's see. Yeah, let me pin these real quick.
Hi, Patrick. How you doing, man? Let's see.
Oh, also, just real quick, I want to Actually, quantum potential. I just circle back just real briefly to your question about like what specific brand of protein. Because when it comes to protein powders, just supplements in general, there's a lot of crap out there. So you have to stick with brands that are reputable and that have been tried and true, that have been around for years and years. And 2 brands that I recommend, you're going to pay a little bit more for them, but you get what you pay for when it comes to supplements. It's Optimum Nutrition and Cytosport. Cytosport is the company that makes muscle milk, and Optimum Nutrition is like the it's like they make a whey protein called Gold Standard, which I mean it pretty much is. Like a lot of people swear, a lot of serious people who know what they're doing, they swear by it. So
Today,
I recommend those 2 brands in particular. So I'm just
today's
shifting away
Barton.
from that now.
Today's Barton's and Letitia's anniversary.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Didn't know
Larry
that.
just said.
Oh, well, good. That's good for them. So somebody told you that?
Larry.
Oh, Larry did. I mean, Larry knows everybody's anniversary, knows their birthdays, knows everything.
Knows everything.
Yeah.
Really.
So happy anniversary to them. Hopefully they're out. Let me guess. Probably eating chicken fajitas. Yeah. So, folks, let's get started here. And so Barton's busy. That's good. He's got something going on. But somebody said, "Do you have any ghost vampire stories?" Well, I'm not real sure about that. Now, is everybody familiar? Let's start with this one. And I don't want to give away all these different stories. The ones I just got just kind of pushed me to do. Miguel says, "Sorry, I didn't make it to the conference. I got COVID and was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. My birthday was yesterday, but couldn't celebrate because I still feel like crap. I love all you guys. Sorry about that, Miguel. That sucks, man. It really does. So everybody pray for Miguel. Miguel, why didn't you reach out and ask for prayer?" I when I got those vampire stories last night, and I didn't get a chance, like to one of them, I got the whole scoop, and the other one I was kind of like, I think I still need to get some more information, so that's fine. But I have one that came out of the Bridgewater Triangle. Now, does anybody know where the Bridgewater Triangle is? Tell me if you know. You guys at home? Okay, let's see if anybody answers.
Bridgewater.
Clever. Ha, 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 ha. All right, I'm going to read you what
Massachusetts.
Wikipedia says here, okay? Bridgewater Triangle is an area of about 200 square miles within southeastern Massachusetts in the United States, claimed to be the site of alleged paranormal phenomena ranging from UFOs to poltergeists and other spectral phenomena, various Bigfoot-like sightings, giant snakes, and thunderbirds. The term was coined by New England-based cryptozoology and my friend Lauren Coleman, and that's what it says in Wikipedia. And there you have it. Lauren is a good friend of mine, and I've talked to him on multiple occasions, and he is also the one that said that wrote about the name game. In other words, there's a Taylor, Texas, Taylor, Mississippi, and Taylor, Michigan, which are all considered to be haunted by Dogman. So, go figure. It's weird, and it is weird. And of course, Lauren called it the name game. So he coined the term the Bridgewater Triangle. Him being one of my elders. I'm not going to fight with him about the name. I mean, some people, if you say anything, like I said, Devil's Backbone, they're like, that's in the LBL. I'm like, no, it's here in Texas. And they said, no, there's one in the LBL. I said, okay, where do I live? I'm going to be talking about the one here, right? So I'm like, hey, I was out there at the Devil's Backbone the other day. Like, oh, I just drove over to Kentucky and decided to, I don't do that. I'm not just going to, hey, Bart, you know what? I'm going to crash at your house, even though the invitation is there. I'm not just going to go hang out. Or
Just made a quick stop a few states over.
yeah,
No big deal.
Let me hit Elijah up. Hey, man, I'll be at your house in a few weeks. Be ready. Or a few days. We'll be ready.
I'm outside right now.
Yeah. Give me a place to crash. And I don't want to be in the pen out there with the livestock. But, oh, Larry. Okay, don't lie, Larry. You didn't know what it was. Don't try to lie. All right. Next time, be on top of it. All right. No, seriously, the Bridgewater Triangle is where this story comes out of. And now I thought because I got those vampire stories last night, and then of course Anthony was having some stomach trouble, and I was, we had a single room with two. It was 2 rooms, but we had 2 beds. So me and my wife were in one, obviously, and Anthony's in the other one. And you weren't feeling too good, but I was up because my wife couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
So I ended up like going over like several of the stories that we got, and so we were sitting there talking about these different stories. So I'm sure, Anthony, you heard me talking about the the first one anyway. You might have missed, and I think you heard me. Well, there's Barton right there. Hold on one second. Hey, man, I was trying to call you on Messenger. I'm on the live stream. What's going on, Barton?
Oh, sorry, man. He's already in bed.
Oh, wow. You guys going to bed early.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to get up at 5 a.m. Had a long day.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give a shout to you about your YouTube channel, and you could tell people what you got going on real quick. And that's what I wanted to do, was just give you a plug. I'd forgotten you started working that other job, so if you want to say to the listeners the name of your show and what you got going on.
Sure, it's in Humanoids with Barton Unley.
Okay.
So, yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff going on. We got a lot of great emails to read. And, I got a lot of stuff concerning Dogman I've got recently. That's I've never heard anybody say this stuff concerning the Dogman phenomenon. So, a lot of good stuff coming up. You guys should come check it out.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to do. I'll let you get back to sleep. And Larry says it's your anniversary. I don't know if he's lying or not.
Yeah, no, it's tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, well, he lied. Typical Larry. All right, then, Barton. You guys, happy anniversary if I don't talk to you by tomorrow, and I'll see you.
Yeah. Everybody have a great night. Hello to all the paratroopers. Hope you guys have a great night.
Okay, I'll see you, brother.
All right, see you, brother.
Bye. So I've forgotten about his job. He's got a job. He's got to get up at 5 in the morning. He's doing a restoration of a house. He's helping the owner with it. God, I need a haircut, man. Hey, let Pepe know, please. Text him right now while we're thinking about it, so this stuff gets out of hand over here. But my hair grows so fast. One of the things, the Bridgewater Triangle story really stuck with me. It was a guy and his 6-year-old daughter. He was teaching her how to hunt, and they were walking around in that area, or in a part of that area, where it was private property, and they were given permission. Hey, you can go and do whatever. They saw something that can only be described as a hellish type entity being. It was latched onto a tree, and the first thing I thought when I read this story, I thought they saw a crawler. No, they didn't. I don't think crawlers fly. That's why they're called crawlers, right? I mean, is that correct? Does that make sense? This thing had wings, and it was latched onto a tree, and it was brown and kind of like blending into the color of the tree. And his daughter actually saw it first, and she was like, "Look, Daddy, look at that. What is that?" And they're walking to their designated spot. And he's like, "I don't know." So he kind of did this, stop, whatever, put his arm up to stop his daughter. And as soon as he leveled the weapon at it, the firearm, this thing turned its head around and looked at him. It was like he didn't know what made heads or tails of it until it turned its head almost completely around like an owl. So at that point, I was like, oh, maybe it's an owl. Then I continued reading. No, it wasn't. He said this thing looked like a skinny, bald-headed man with brown, chocolate brown. He said like a light fuzz, like not like hair, and he didn't call it fur. He said like fuzz on it,
Like peach fuzz or something?
Yeah, he said the whole thing looked like it was covered in some sort of fuzz.
Like a kiwi.
Yeah, and when I messaged him, I said, "What do you mean?" After I read it, it was like, obviously, I asked the question. I said, "What do you mean fuzz?" He's like, if you had like a baby animal, that's just born, and has like a little bit of fur, but and so I thought that was really weird. But when it turned its head around, he said, "Dude, it looked like Nosferatu." Now, we've gotten these stories before of these creatures, but the difference with this creature was that it didn't have the nose like a vampire, like Nosferatu has that weird kind of drooping hook nose, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
This thing didn't have that. Yes, Tracker E, yeah, like a bat. It was bat-like, and it had wings. But he said that the way the wings were, it was like they were spread out over the back, and there was like a webbing in between its arms, and it kind of like would leap from tree to tree. Like it went from that tree and it leapt to another tree. And he was like, dude. Trolls in the chat. Who's trolling? Somebody says a stream is cutting out. Is it paused? People are asking.
I'm watching it on my end, and it's working for me. It might be their signal.
Let's see what we got here.
It's working on my end.
Jojo, yes, normal sized. It wasn't built like some big behemoth monster. It was just a normal, like the size of it. Somebody said buffering. Yep, buffering. Everybody says it's paused. Press the live button. It's just here and there. Wow, that's great. It's just here and there. It's all good. Yes, buffering. Turn the stream quality to 480. Oh.
Yeah, if you're
Anyways.
buffering, I would recommend changing the stream quality to 480p at the highest. A lot of times, if you try to watch it in 720 or 1080p, it'll buffer, especially if you're on mobile data.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Was that door locked?
It's locked.
Yeah, it's locked.
Okay, good. A lot of weird people around here. So one of the things that I asked him too, I mean, I asked him the whole kit and caboodle, and I was like, because he didn't give me a real description of the hands or the feet. Claw-like hands, talon-like fingernails up top and below. Terrifying looking creature. When he turned around, it had prominent fangs, but not how the Nosferatu has the little teeth in the front. That's the one, right, that does that?
Yeah.
Nosferatu,
Teeth in
yeah.
the front?
He has the
Okay.
teeth up in front.
All right. I don't know a lot about the Nosferatu creature. I know what these creatures look like, and people say they look like Nosferatu, and I know what that means, but I'm just making sure. Now, I believe the vampire from Salem's Lot kind of looked like that, didn't it?
Yeah.
I can't. My memory
I don't
about that
remember
might
the
be a little
vampire.
bit fuzzy, but
Yeah, it had those teeth.
it had these weird teeth, fuzzy, no pun intended. So one of the things that the canines were where they were supposed to be, and this thing had a bit of a protrusion. Now, muzzle, I asked. First he said no, it didn't have a muzzle. Well, then I explained to him, I said, did it protrude? And he said, yes, it did. I said, okay, so then that's a little bit of a muzzle. But I think what he was thinking is like when a thing has a muzzle, he's thinking of like a wolf or a dog. Mm-hmm. And the next thing messaged back to me was like this thing was not wolf-like or dog-like at all. And I was like, no. I'm not. I guess because I'm the Dogman or one of the Dogman people.
Yeah.
They assume that I'm looking for a Dogman story. And I told them, no. I'm like trying to turn this into a Dogman story. And I have people that do that. They'll get a story about anything. They'll turn it into a Dogman. You can tell them there was a ghost of your mom. Oh, she was a Dogman. She came back as a Dogman. I saw it. It was a Dogman. It was a physical Dogman, too. It wasn't a ghost. And it wasn't your mom. It was just a Dogman. And you're crazy. And I'm a liar. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah. But, you got all these con men out there that's what they're doing. Everything is whatever they want it to be. And they say, I talked to so-and-so, and so-and-so is like, that's not what we talked about. But so what ended up happening, this thing turned and looked at them, and it had a muzzle, and it had really big teeth, top and bottom. When I asked him, like, how far it protruded, okay, he said not very far. Like if you were to see, like, a baboon, he said probably half the size of the muzzle of a baboon. So... Actually, that was I asked him about that, the analogy of the baboon, because we get these stories of Dogman that look like, they have these baboon type snouts. So how big of a protrusion? Mm-hmm. So he said half, first he said half the size of an ape that would be, and I said, well, which kind of ape? A gorilla? A chimp? A baboon? When I said baboon, he said baboon. So it's very weird that this creature would have this snout, this muzzle with these huge teeth. So obviously, if it's got teeth like that, I would think personally, it not necessarily a vampire in the traditional sense, because it's probably not drinking blood. It's probably eating something, probably meat. But the way that this creature was designed, like its head, it was like a humanoid head. So when you have a humanoid head, and how did we go from 5'10" to 4'10"? What the heck happened? Everybody just decided to jump me? Well, shame on them. So I thought it was weird, to say the least, that this creature would have this sort of protrusion and then have these big canine teeth. The eyes, there was no discernible color in the eyes. This was this was not at night. This was at dusk. So it wasn't something that they were, and so they were just moving from one spot to another. There were two different spots there, and it just, it was bizarre, to say the least. But what really got me was what happened after they turned to try to walk back to the area where they came from. This thing decided to shadow them. It was leaping from tree to tree. And he told his daughter, just don't look. This was back in, I think, 2006. He said, don't look at it. Just don't look at it. We're just going to keep walking. Eventually, this thing took off and it flew over them. When he leveled his rifle at it the second time, this is the second time after it did that, it began to shriek and it climbed way up a really tall tree. So him and his daughter kept on walking, and from what I remember, they walked like a quarter mile away from where their destination was, just to try to get away from this creature, because there was a trail and a path that they could run down. Now, they didn't want to run, but they had to, so he picked up his daughter and he ran. And he said, I don't know. He's like, I don't know if that is what triggered this thing to begin to chase us. He goes, but he goes, in hindsight, it was foolish. He admitted that. He said, because we couldn't outrun it. We saw how fast it could move. And he's like, there was no way that we were going to outrun this thing. He goes, but my instinct was to protect my daughter and try to get out of there before dark. Because one of the things he said, and I agree with this, he said that oftentimes when you see one of these types of creatures, but he was referring to like a Dogman. He said when you see things like Dogman or Bigfoot, they're often not alone. Now, a lot of times when we hear about the crawler, it's almost always alone. You never hear about more than one.
Well, what about the well?
What well?
Wasn't there? I remember a story you told about
Where the crawler tried to come out of the well? I thought that was a single one.
I thought it was a couple that tried to come out. Or he would say there was a couple that he saw multiple ones coming out.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten maybe, 2 or 3 stories that we've told about them being multiple, but that's a very small
It's very
fraction.
rare, and it kind of
rare.
Yeah, it seemed more or less of like them hanging around. It just seemed more like that's like their lair.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it might be like they
Typically
separate once they get out.
too.
Yeah.
When they're above the ground, I don't hear of them being more than just one solitary creature, kind of akin to a leopard, Dogman and Bigfoot tend to be alpha predators, and who knows, maybe this rake is one too. We don't know. But I know that this flying entity, and of course, some of my colleagues would call it a flying humanoid. I think it's a freaking vampire of some type, vampiric looking creature. Doesn't mean it is, but from the description of it. Now, here's the thing. That happened back in 2006, right? His daughter is now in her early 20s. She was 6 years old when it happened. So corresponding with her, okay, now you got to remember, this is a 6-year-old child's memory of this. And he said, you can ask my daughter. We'll call her Chelsea. He said, you can ask Chelsea and she'll tell you. And so I messaged with her back and forth. And, at first, I guess her dad didn't tell her that somebody was going to be messaging her. And so I was like, hey, can you give me a description of this creature? And and she was like, creature, with like a question mark. And of course, this happened, when she was 6-year-old kid. So she was I'm sure she was kind of taken aback by who the heck is this guy? You know, it was 17 years ago. And so I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Your dad didn't brief you on it. I guess he was at work and he didn't give her the memo." And I said, "My name's Josh Turner. I have a show, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "My uncle, my aunt watch your show." And that's how I guess they got in touch with her. He's like, my brother-in-law, or he says, my brother has a story to tell. So that's how I got in touch with the listener. So she didn't really know who the heck she was talking to. And then she was like, "Who are you again?" I said, "Send her a link to the show. Go check out the show." Okay. Then she started telling me, "Oh, okay, now I know what it is." And she started talking about this creature that she saw. The description that I got from Chelsea was a little different than the one I got from, we'll call him O. I didn't ask about permission. But anyway, said that what this creature looked like was vampiric. But he didn't think about it really much because he wasn't into Twilight or any, I don't even know if they were around at that time, but he wasn't into vampires or werewolves or any of that stuff. Didn't know what they were supposed to look like, but when he gave descriptions to people, yeah, his wife's friend was like, "That sounds like a vampire." So it chases him. It's jumping from tree to tree. Now, one of the things that it did or it didn't do was fly. The way the wings were, I wouldn't even call them wings. It was the way he described it was like a flying squirrel.
It glided.
It was like, yeah, where the wings were, like there was like in between the arms and legs, whatever, which it would jump from tree to tree and it would just kind of glide, and then it glided over the top of them. Now it did not fly. That's the thing. There was no flapping of wings or whatever, but he called it wings on the sides of its body, which I guess would be considered wings. Somebody says ghoulish glider. Yes, exactly, Katie7. So this thing followed them all the way back to their first original location, which was about a half mile from their vehicle, his truck. At this point, the thing was sitting up on a tree, and he was able to come out of the stand and walk directly up to it, like got within like 30 yards of it. And he thought, I had the weapon leveled at it. And when it turned its head, it saw it, and he jumped over the top of him, flew back onto another tree. And this is where it gets really interesting. His daughter, okay, who he was teaching how to hunt at that time, throws a rock at it because it got too close. So she gets scared. It throws a rock at it. Then it jumps down. The first time they seen it touch the ground, and crawls bat-like toward the daughter. At that point, he shot it. Wasn't playing around with it anymore, and he swears up and down that he hit it probably directly into the spine, right below the head, and it should have like taken care of it and incapacitated it. All it did was just kind of like jerk its body a little bit and then flip around and then jump back up onto a tree. Then again, climbing up a really tall tree, and it kind of just stayed up there. Then they got out of that area and took off back to the vehicle. He said we were practically walking backwards, and he picked up his daughter and carried her once he got closer and just ran the last quarter mile. And so I don't know what that is. Like, I say vampire just because of the description, but according to the description of the teeth or the fangs or whatever you want to call them, that's not going to be something that's going to go around trying to drink blood. That sounds like something that's going to be eating flesh.
Yeah.
To me. And now I'd like to get him, I'm going to give him Sibylla Irwin's number and let him talk to her, and she can maybe do a forensic sketch on it, and we can get a picture of this thing. And see what Sibylla comes up with. She did a pretty good job on
That'd be pretty cool.
Werewolf, so
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So I wonder. I remember the alien story where they said that they found like it was like a very old alien that they had like in the zoo enclosure when the guy he was brought aboard the ship, and they found like this very decrepit looking creepy creature on display. The aliens told him like, "Oh, that's a That's a vampire basically that's been there for like 100,000 years or however so long. But one thing they said was that vampirism isn't like a being; it's more like an illness, which kind of takes over, right? So I wonder if, like, let's say that these Bigfoot are dimensional beings and they're coming from like different dimensions. What if that illness still affects things the same way? So like that the Basquatches are what vampires Sasquatch are basically, but it's not like that they're vampires. It's more like the illness of vampirism has taken over and turned them into this Basquatch creature.
Yeah, but the Basquatch doesn't look like a regular Bigfoot. I mean, like if that were the case, then like people would be seeing like a
Well, I mean, vampires
a
don't.
Sasquatch Bigfoot. They would behave somehow, some way, like it needs to drink blood or something. I don't know.
Well, this thing wasn't Bat Squatch.
Yeah.
The Bat Squatch reports that I've gotten, and I've fielded a few. I think I talked to, who was it? I think it might have been D.A. Roberts or somebody recently about, I talked to Barton about it. Who else do we know from the community that's talked about it? I know Bettina's talked about it. I think that those creatures are like a large Bigfoot with wings. Now, it sounds crazy, and it is a crazy idea. And one of the stories we got out of Wyoming was just absolutely insane of a Bat Squatch. But we're not here to talk about that today. It was a large, like the wingspan was like 20 feet. But this creature was like 8 or 9 feet. So you're looking at this humongous creature. The wings don't even look like it would support it.
Oh, that's out there.
Yeah, so it didn't even seem like the story. Let's just go with the one near the Wind River, okay, in Wyoming, okay. That story in particular, I don't think we've told that one on the show yet, or maybe we have. I don't think so. But that creature had a 20 to 25 foot wingspan, and it was like 8 feet tall, 8 to 9 feet tall. And it looked like it weighed several hundred pounds. And I don't think those wings would, even that big, would be able to do anything other than hold this thing up. It doesn't make sense. The reason that birds can fly in our world is because their bones are hollow. So what is this Dogman that we get that has the wings, like this gargoyle dog-headed creature, wolf-headed creature, and then you have the Bigfoot flying around, with bat-like wings. So what are we to believe? Are these creatures, if they're flying around, it's almost like somebody created a tulpa in their mind and just made it happen. I mean, it's so weird. I mean, because even if you were to genetically create this in our world and you had that kind of ability, like how would you go about making something 600-700 pounds fly? Like how strong do the wings have to be actually?
Oh, they have to be insanely powerful.
It would just be unreal. I mean,
using bat wings is the right approach because, like you said, feathers. The reason why you can't fly with feathers unless you have hollow bones.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they would have to be like a leather type of membrane that would be coated on the wings. But I don't know if there's really a way for it to beat its wings and still carry that much weight. Like the wingspan would have to be ginormous in order
which
to be
is
able.
why it was 20-25
Yeah.
feet. But even then, I'm thinking, I just don't know. I don't think so, And then this creature, and I asked them how much he thought this creature weighed, the one that was chasing him and his daughter. His exact words were about 220 pounds. I said, that was quick. I mean, that was a very quick answer. And he's, why do you think that? He goes, dude, judging animals and being a hunter out in the woods, he just like, I really think it was probably about 220, 230. And he was, answered me pretty quickly. And so he's had time to think about this, and he said, every year in November, I mean, he thinks about it, it's like it just kind of comes back up. And then he said that when his daughter, now here's what's interesting. She told me through messengers or the messages we that she thought that this thing was some sort of like, her exact words, okay? Like creature that came from like another realm. And in fact, for years, she thought it was a dream. So when she was about 16, 17, she asked her dad, she's like, I remember like 10 years ago we went hunting and I had this weird dream that we were being chased by this vampire-looking creature with a weird-looking face. And he was like, that wasn't a dream. He had to tell her, like, he goes, oh my gosh, I thought you knew all this time. I thought you knew. I thought that you knew that was real. And she's like, no, I had no idea that was real. I thought that was a dream. And so she had these dreams that went on for several years. And the only person she confided in was her younger brother. So, he eventually, when it all came out, he was like, I thought those were dreams. And she was telling about these dreams. And that was one of them. She was like, no. Dad said that this really happened. So she was telling me that. And then the dad, was telling me that he thought that it was, interesting that she thought it was a dream. I guess to her mind, coping mechanism or something. So I don't know, man. That's one of those weird things where you could talk about that all day long and you still wouldn't have any kind of, how the hell do you...
You wouldn't get any closer to the truth.
Nothing you can do.
Yeah, but do you think that it's possible for these physical creatures to be affected by vampirism if it is an illness, where it's like or like a parasite?
So you're saying like if somebody is a vampire and say they bit a deer, would that deer be able to go and become a vampire and would it start drinking blood?
Let's say more humanoid cryptids, I guess. Would it be possible to affect them with that same kind of thing? And maybe some of these like really wild-looking creatures that are mostly similar to, like, let's say Dogman or Bigfoot, but have like these major changes, like these huge teeth or like these, like weird wing things on its, like it transforms them somehow, because like vampires don't look like humans per se, I guess. Like that big kind of white, scaly, like ghoulish-looking creature, that's not humanoid, even though it's supposed to come from the same. It's supposed to be like a human turned into a vampire. Would it kind of be like when they are affected by vampirism? Does it change them in some way to make them grotesque and look different from how they're supposed to be naturally? I guess. It's worth a question, because you do get enough of these stories to where like some weird stuff is happening. This one in particular just made me think of it, but it just made me think, like, is it a possibility to where?
Maybe it. Okay, like I can entertain it to this degree. Like maybe it does affect them, but it may not it may not turn them into vampiric like creatures, because the episode that we just released about like the zombie werewolf, and then you were like, well, what is this thing? Because we talked about the knot deer.
Mm-hmm.
So and what are those? I don't know, but maybe it's like if they're bitten or I don't know, attacked by one of these vampiric ghoulish creature things. I don't know what they are. That maybe it's like necrotic or something, and it starts to rot their flesh, and that's why you see cryptids with like exposed rib cages or exposed like skulls and stuff.
That's a good.
So you think that a vampire bit them?
And then they might have been rotting. Yeah, who knows?
I just don't know. It's just I'm just throwing stuff out.
Well, the only thing that would make me think like, oh, maybe vampires don't attack these cryptids is because like you'll hear these stories of Dogman being shot and nothing but dust coming out. So then it's like, these vampires, like, they only suck on the natural, or they only drink from the natural. He
shot this thing.
The creature,
the hunter. He shot it.
And it just didn't do anything. Up into a tree.
Yeah.
So. And I asked him about, then he kind of dust, and he says, I don't remember seeing any dust, but there was no blood.
Yeah. So,
I don't know.
So it might just be like they vampires only go for like natural, like humans, for instance, or animals, and these like supernatural creatures they don't go for because of the fact that their blood or their bodies don't work the same way to produce what they require.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
I don't know. What or is it something that shapeshifts into something like that? You got me. Your guess is as good as mine, dude.
Yeah.
All I know is he got out of there, and it didn't kill him. Well, if it wanted to kill you, it would have. If it really wanted to, it didn't want to. It let you live. It's just nice. They're good.
Mm-hmm.
They're more gooder than we are.
In fact, it stalked your a daughter in her dreams because it wanted to return the bullet.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
trying. It was like, hey,
Hey, you left this.
you left this. Yeah. Next time, use a bigger caliber. Maybe it'll not.
Just come back and I'll hand it to you.
But yeah, and there will be people that'll be marching for their, for vampire rights or something.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's a marginalized group. They only want to drink your blood.
There's definitely a group already
Why
out
are you
there.
so upset? I know. I mean, like, just let them have a little bit of your blood. Come on, man. We have a lot of blood. Oh, man. Samuel Lemon says, I fly and go places in my dreams now. In another realm, if they come here, why is it different for them? Well, I guess it's true. Maybe for over here, they have a different atmosphere that they can, the reality's different. And I mean that by like as in different reality, different atmosphere. But yeah, that's that story. And if anybody else has any thoughts, then spit them out and then let's move on. If not,
Well, I mean, like one thing that we have to consider is that they might be just as confused about being here with us as we are about them being here with us. Like,
well,
you know,
I've
like
heard that
Tony
they're
has
just
said.
scared of us as we are of them.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's
Yeah, they
obviously
won't
true.
hurt you as long as you just stay calm and don't be afraid of them.
Yeah, it just kept swooping over them. I think it didn't attack us with his gun.
Well, it was swooping over them because it was scared of them. Because that's what you do when you're scared of something. You just like go make a beeline for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
That
mean,
makes sense.
they might just not attack anything shorter than them. So then they look around, they're like, oh.
Here's my
shoot.
thoughts on this totally. I'm going to tell you right now. I think that it was, hear me out. I think it was actually afraid of his gun, but I think it was because maybe this thing observed him shooting other things, or not him, but other hunters. And so it may be that it was watching animals be blasted with that thing and thought, oh, okay, I better stay away from it. But then again, once it got shot and it didn't do anything to it, maybe this creature became more emboldened and that's why it just took off full on chasing them, or maybe it was just aggravated at that point. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it is the Bridgewater Triangle. I mean, what can you do? If you're in a place called the Bridgewater Triangle, I mean, it's you get all kinds of weird stuff, pugwudgies and just everything you could think of. Every type of unstable phenomena is out there. It's just like the Ute Basin or the LBL or Devil's Backbone here in Texas, which we drove partially through today on the way back. When we were driving down River Road, which is right out, it's in between New Braunfels, and then it ends up at like what, Ranch Road 12 or something like that? What is
Yeah.
it? Purgatory Road or the Devil's Backbone. My wife was like, it's so pretty out here, and there are people all over the river, and enjoying the water of the Guadalupe. And one of the things that I noticed was that there were spots. Now that the water has receded even more, you can see. It's even easier to see, but you could see it before, but not as prevalent. There are caves. You can see them as you're driving down that road on that drive. And I thought, that is probably why people see these creatures, because they're probably coming out of the caves. Now, here's what I got. There was a story that I got out of River Road. This is the next one I'm going to tell you. It's a Bigfoot story, but it's pretty terrifying. There were some people who were RV camping out there, okay? And there's a lot of different places to go and RV camp, but they were out there and they were in the water and they were swimming around. One of them had lost their inner tube, and it was a time when the water was actually pretty high. And it was right after it had rained really heavily or let's say more than several years ago. Probably would have been so, man, now it's been so long. 16 years ago, I think it was. Right after that. So what ended up happening is that there was two females. One of them was splashing around trying to get her inner tube. Her friend is like, look. And when she points, now, if you go there, you'll know, going tubing down that river, it is really, really fun to do, but it can be a little bit treacherous in certain spots. And it forks off in multiple places, and there's little, like, dead end creeks, and then some of them are pretty wide. The creeks are actually pretty wide, and when it rains, that water from those creeks will actually go over the road. And so I was showing my wife, we've been through there multiple times, but we hadn't been there in a while. So I was showing her how the drought here has kind of affected it, and we were looking at it. One of the things that I can say for sure, that spot where they were at, I don't know it exactly where it is, but I have an idea where I think it is, but it looks different on right now without all the water. And there was a little sort of island right there with like, just a little piece of ground that would kind of sticks up. And I saw that. I think I saw that today when we were driving, but I wasn't for sure. And I didn't want to say anything because my wife was already trying to get me to stop, and we would have been late for the show. And so I said, no, we got to go. It was still daylight, and there were people out there and stuff, but I didn't want to mess with it. And they see this creature that's laying down flat in the water. It was probably about 2.5 foot of water right there where that creature was. And it was laying down flat, and all they could see was the head. What's so weird about it, the face was completely black. The fur was orangey brown color. And the hands they could see when it was swimming were black. And they weren't that far away from it. I think the one girl said she was about 45 yards from it. She had to estimate. It was like half a football field. She was maybe a little bit less. I'm saying 45 yards. This thing noticed them noticing it. Then it stands up. Now, here's the crazy thing. Their brother and his friend were putting their tubes in right there on the other side of that creek to go down into the main river. And like I said, the river actually forks in a few places and becomes two different, same river, just two different forks. And this thing took two steps towards these girls and then decided to submerge itself and then go into the water. Here's what's crazy. All right. Now, if that's not crazy enough, these guys that were riding their tubes and kind of pushing themselves over there to where this thing was at, and they had to kind of go against the grain, but the water wasn't moving incredibly fast. When they got right to the spot where the girls, one of them was the brother of the one girl, it felt like something was sucking them in. Like there was like the water was being pulled, and one of them came out from underneath his inner tube. It like completely pulled him in, and when he opened his eyes underwater, he saw what looked like an underwater cave. The girls at this point were, at first, they were just kind of dumbstruck. They didn't say anything. They didn't speak anything. And then they started yelling at them frantically as they got closer to that spot, and they were like, what? And then that happens. The one guy, now I only talked to one person, but he described to his sister as it was almost like a whirlpool. His friend said the same thing. His friend got even more trauma because something out of that cave, that underwater cave spot, which they described it as an underwater cave spot, and I'm pretty sure now I could probably go and look and see it because now that the water has receded. So I want to go and do that before the water comes back, if it's where I think it is. Now, there's a lot of spots out there. And this creature grabbed this guy's swim trunks and literally pulled so hard it tore his swim trunks off, like, partially. Mm-hmm. So he ends up having to get out of the water without, he made it. He's okay. But he got away, and his friend was like, did not see anything, did not feel anything. The two girls that were there, now I only talked to one, okay? But I haven't confirmed anything with what her friend saw or what happened to this guy, just what she said that they told her and what happened to them. They did manage to get back onto the main path and then go back up the road, and then they got out of the water. For obvious reasons. So, if this story is to be believed, what you got to tell me what's going on here, because that means that there's this Bigfoot type creature. They described it very ape-like. When it stood up, the legs were straight. They weren't like, a backward bent dog looking legs, like hawk legs. And I don't mean the animal hawk, because somebody asked me why was I calling them hawk legs? And it was because they're hawks, not hawk, but they're these hawk legs. And so it was so weird. And then when they went back and they were staying in an RV with their family and they told them this is what happened to us. I mean, if that story is to be believed, is Bigfoot breathing underwater? I mean, what's going on here?
Do they even need air though?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you're an aper, you're saying, oh, well, it's a type of aquatic ape. This thing submerged itself and was in that water for a while, and it even grabbed the one kid. It was a kid at the time. He was like 18. But it grabbed him, and it tried to pull him into this hole. Like, he saw it briefly when he ended up underwater. And it was well below... it was like at the bottom, like, it was almost like it was like you could see it like on the bed of the river or the creek. There was an opening. It was like a semicircle.
Yeah.
This thing was coming out of it. So there had to be water in there rushing in and out of that thing, or, running, I mean, if somebody said Bigfoot have hella lung capacity, yeah, even then though, I mean, Sue, wouldn't you say that,
I mean, there might have been like a cavern underneath the water, and it would spit out like underground, and there wouldn't be water. There would just be like a cavern with an entrance to go out to the river.
yeah, I don't know. Very strange. Now, here's what I can tell you. I got about probably 15 right off the top of my head. I could tell you, I counted earlier before I came on the show, of not Dogman, but just Bigfoot creatures out there, just in that area. And especially after that flood, 3 of the reports I got were after the flood, I believe, of October 2007. The one where a lot of, there was a ton of rain in this area. And I wonder... how much, I think it was, or it might have been, how much it rained. I don't know, I could look it up, but I think it was 2007, because I got some reports right after that in like October. And I think it was right after the big flood, and it rained from like late August all the way till October. It was just like a big bunch of rain. Or am I thinking of 2008? I think it was 2007.
Well, that actually makes sense to me, because if it is like kind of like what Anthony's saying, to where they have these like flooded parts of their caves, and then they lead up into open areas that are unflooded. If a big flood happened and the water level rises real quick, that would force them kind of out of those caves again. Because then it's like, well, the water's obviously too much for us right now. We'll just have to be outside until the water level goes back down, and we can go back into our caves.
Yeah, I never even thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, when he explained that made me think immediately, like, yeah, that makes sense if they are using those caves and they aren't like aquatic, or like they do need to breathe somewhat and they're just using their lung capacity. That would explain why you would have a lot more frequent sightings of them after the fact, because of that fact that they have to leave those cave systems now.
Yeah, because they would, they would be forced out of them, but there's such a huge network of cave systems and all that limestone though. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, you would think that they would have places to go that are like that would be above the water level. Well, I mean, if a significant enough flood happens and the water rises high enough, I mean, the whole network, like the whole local network, cave network, could still be flooded. So yeah, I mean that still makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think that what happened with this, the reports are, I believe, just in October or September, October of 2007, there were 3, and then I got 2 around that same time in 2008. So I just kind of compared it. So I think, I don't know, maybe if I had to put my finger on it, I would say, and maybe it's just that time of year where they show up. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't believe, like some people say, Bigfoot's flesh and blood. Some people say it's purely a metaphysical thing. I think it's metaphysical, but I also think it's physical. It manifests itself in a physical way. And I think that they come to our reality at certain times as a physical creature. And so Katie Seven says, "What if they are tulpas sent from another realm to explore and eat and kidnap people, like encounter suits?" I mean, they might be masters of all this ESP stuff. I do kind of believe that they are good at mind speak and doing different things, various things.
Well, that kind of leads to the question. It's like the chicken or the egg. It's like what came first for them? Were they spiritual first, and then became physical beings by maybe creating a body or inhabiting some kind of a physical form on here, or were they physical creatures that have a deeper understanding of the spiritual nature of reality and also have a better ability to use it to perform their own whatever, or to go about their life? So it like depends on whatever came first that would lead to like why they would. I guess it would help you understand the nature of why they do things if you could understand which one did come first.
What do you mean? Like which,
Well, I mean, if they were like, let's say like they're just natural creatures that came from like the inner earth, but they have such high understanding of spiritual of their spiritual nature, and they have a high understanding of their own like soul and stuff like that, so they're able to do all the stuff we see, and it's less about them being these. I formed it in my head. I'm trying to piece it all together, but like the basics is just like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because I guess if they were spiritual creatures that came in and inhabited bodies, them being in the cave system and needing air and needing like subsistence and stuff like that would matter less than if they were physical creatures that have an understanding of their spiritualization or have an understanding of their spirit, and because then it would explain why something like flooding caves would affect them so much that they would leave, and and why that would force them out of their homes and stuff, and why you would see more encounters of them like that. But if they are just spiritual beings that turned into a creature and they're slowly becoming more physical over time, that stuff wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter if their home is affected, because this isn't their natural plane.
Yeah.
One of the things that somebody said something about, there was a rash of sightings in 2018 after that. That was a major flood. It really affected Wimberley, and Wimberley is, on the other side of that. Like if you keep going down that road, right, you end up in Wimberley, I believe.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's a little different area. But yeah, there was a lot of flooding. But we're not talking about that area in particular, or of this river. We're not talking about that area in particular. We're talking about River Road, that area. Yeah, but there were a lot of Bigfoot sightings. Yes, you're correct. But if you look at what I'm talking about, 2007, 2008, and I should clarify, the reason I'm looking at that was because this happened after heavy rain in 2007. So that's why I should have, maybe I didn't clarify that. I don't know. The other thing I was going to say, and going back really quickly, if you were listening to me on the podcast, and unfortunately a lot of people listen to the podcast, they will not come to YouTube. They will not watch the live streams. You couldn't pay them to watch it. They won't do it. They're strictly just, Spotify, and then they always say the same thing. Well, I listened to you on the way to work. That's the only way, so that's it. You can't get them to change. They're not going to change. But it's unfortunate for them, because there was something that was left out of one of the stories. It was the attack, the hitchhiker that the truck driver believes was attacked by a werewolf. One of the things that confirmed it for him, and just so because people were asking me, I never went back and said why he had eaten dinner with his friend. Why was that important? Somebody trolled me about that. Well, that was because, and I kind of deserved it on that one, because I didn't tell you why that was important. So that's on me. Why that was important was because when they went and ate dinner, his friend Bobby told him that he had seen a creature running across the road at a high rate of speed that was so tall that it almost it was at the top of his Peterbilt truck. So there you go. That's a humongous werewolf-looking creature. That's not one of these people like say, oh, a dire wolf's like this large wolf. First of all, they actually didn't look like that. But second of all, they weren't wolves, and third, most importantly, they didn't get that big. Okay. This thing ran across the road in that same area. It was in between Hobbs and Carlsbad. And so that is why one of the reasons why this guy believed that it was a werewolf, not to mention the fact that he saw what this spectral entity was trying to show him. So that's that. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about with this Bigfoot case, now, I don't, it just, to me, it boggles the mind, like why this thing was coming up out of the water and why was it living in the water? That's what I wonder. I mean, if that's the case. Some people are going to say, no, it was just there. And some people are going to say, well, it was living in the water. I don't know. But, you give me your opinions on that, and you can always message me on Messenger. If you're my friend on Facebook, I'll approve your friend request. Just make sure you let me know that you are a listener of Paranormal Roundtable. And I'm Josh Turner 940 on the Instagram. So if you want to message me on Instagram, a lot of people say, well, I don't watch Facebook. I do Instagram and whatever. That's fine too. What is your coordinates?
PRT Mushu. You can find my email at mushuprt@gmail.com. My Instagram is PRT Mushu, and my Facebook is the same. You can find me on any of those. So, well, I mean, I guess that's kind of what my point is, though, about what I was saying earlier, is like, if that Bigfoot is living in the water, if it was a spiritual being that became a physical one, it wouldn't matter where it lived. It wouldn't have a natural habitat because it's a natural being. So, like, it could live in the water and come out and do whatever, because why wouldn't it? Why would it care about living in only the forest or living only in the mountains or only wherever? You know, if you could create your own body and create how you want to live, why would you not choose wherever you want?
Artistic Bunny says, didn't Mount St. Helens have Bigfoot reports before and during the eruption? Yes, that's what we've heard. Whether they're to be believed, I mean, that's up for speculation. JP says, when are you going to have the native guests on the show? Which one? There's a few. And one in particular we were supposed to record with on Tuesday, and it fell through. And then we tried to record Melba Ketchum on Wednesday, and that fell through. And then Thursday, Todd Tate, and that fell through. But hopefully, yeah, he'll be coming on. He's got a lot of interesting things to talk about. Then hopefully, we can get him on. That's the first one that we were going to record with. Hold on, folks. Work. Guys, let me know what you want to hear next, because we have Dogman and we have a lot of ghost stuff to go over, and there's some things I want to talk. Craig Bryan is the guy's name. I think he's supposed to come on. So anyway, hopefully we'll get that done. He wants to come on and talk, and all these people are okay with their names being on there. I have a couple people who want to come on and say their story, but they want to use an alias, which I told them is fine. Okay. Did you get that message?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So here's what we got: is ghost stories. There are a lot of people asking for ghost stories. The ghost sounds good. Nothing against Dogman. Okay, we got ghost stories. We did the thing, over the week, Saturday night. It was from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., which is a weird time to have a conference. But this particular paranormal festival, the whole grounds of this place, the Black Swan Inn, look up, see how many acres that is. I don't know how. It's pretty big and sprawling and spread out. How big the land is right there. There was a milking barn there. There was a chicken coop outhouse thing, outbuilding, whatever. There was a stable, and then there was like another barn type building. All of those buildings apparently have some sort of entities in them or around them. When I was inside in the main house, I felt like it was Black Swan and Surrey. No, this was in San Antonio. So when I walked in there, I could feel it. Like it hits you like a wave. And talked to a few people. I hope to get to talk to the owner. I did make a connection with the Paranormal Putas. I want to say Puta that way. That way it's not saying it bad. Because otherwise, if you say "poo," it's so we'll say it that way. But that's what they call themselves. They're two sisters, and one of them worked at a toy store here in Austin. I don't know if she still does, but I got to talk to her last night for a little while, and it was interesting because they are now doing a podcast, and they were born in East Austin, and I had told them, or I told her, the one girl, the one that was working at the toy store, I told her because my wife used to collect Tokidokis. And so I told her, I said, you should, if it's something you're passionate about, you should look into doing it and start a podcast. That's what I did. And so she did. And they've gotten popular. And so we're maybe thinking about doing a little collaborating or doing something and having them come on and talk. We're going to go eat dinner with them. They live here in Austin. Why not?
So the whole property of
Exchange stories.
Black Swan Inn is 35 acres.
35 acres. I was going to say 40. So it's 35 acres of haunted property. And like my wife said, she was like, it wasn't just ghosts inside that building. They were all over the grounds. You could feel them. And there were stories flying everywhere between people who had been there before. One person had told me that they went in there and they stayed the night. And it was a terrifying experience he had. It was a guy, he was from the Collectors Convention. His name was Josh. And he was sitting there telling us that he had stayed the night in that place. And I was trying to get him to come on the show and talk about the things that went on there. But we didn't have a whole lot of time to go into everybody's encounter at the Collectors Convention because I wasn't there for that. I was there to, do what I was going to do, not... get paranormal stories. But the Paranormal Festival in San Antonio that's what it was for. Now, unfortunately, we went up there and we realized we didn't have any business cards. So we're like halfway there, and I'm like, do we have business cards? Nope. Left them right there on the counter. And that was a problem. So we had to show everybody that was trying to. But some people had heard of us, and we had a couple people who did know who we were, and they were very nice. They came up to us. They were fans, and they knew of my podcast. Now, here's one way I knew these people. They knew my podcast. They didn't know what I looked like. They just showed me on Spotify. Oh yeah, I watch your, and I'm like, oh, okay. But if you're going to watch us any other way than YouTube, please do it on Spotify. But you watch us however you want. There's all these different channels that we're on. But this person, I knew that they didn't watch a live stream. They don't look at YouTube, or they would know who I look like.
Yeah.
And so I told him, and I guess it was his wife, I said, you guys should check out the live stream. And he's like, didn't even know there was a live stream until recently when we started advertising it on the whatever. So he said, okay, yeah, I'm going to check it out. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. And a story that was given to me, and I talked about it on Bettina's show last night, was of this creature, and it was in South Texas, and I still don't know the exact location. She's supposed to give me this is one particular people. This isn't the ones that knew who I was. I met these people through Ken last night. And he asked me what I thought of this case. So we were all standing there. And the case that was given to me after they had talked to Ken and Ann, and I had walked back up from finishing talking to the people that were fans, he told me, he's like, maybe you should ask him. And I said, what is this, Dogman? And she's like, I don't know what it is exactly, but she said that it was black and green. Now, I explained to them, one of the things that can make a creature look black and green is because I believe that these creatures, where they come from, people see green on them, or they'll come out of something that's akin to like a green portal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but green is a color that's associated with these things for some reason. I know that the Jinn supposedly live, in the Calf with the Green Mountains. And I know that going back in history, there were different cultures that believed in this green whatever. So what she saw, I don't know. Hopefully she'll give me more information on it. So that was one of the stories I got. Another story I got was a woman who said, I heard you talk on your show. This was the other person that knew who I was. She said, and you talked about the Emily Morgan, right? So, the Emily Morgan at one time was voted the second most haunted hotel in the entire country by USA Today. Took a poll. And a few years ago, we were coming back from the coast, and one of y'all booked the hotel. Anthony did?
Yeah.
Okay, and so he booked the hotel, and my wife was like, "You did it on purpose." She thought I put you up to it. I was like, "No, I didn't ask. I didn't try to."
I mean, I just did it because it was close to where we were going to be, and
And
it
it was
wasn't
pretty
that.
cheap.
It wasn't that expensive.
Yeah. Well, because it's haunted.
Yeah.
It's the second most.
Oh, and we stayed like on the floor that was like the surgical floor. So.
Which we also got a story from somebody after talking about it on the show, who claimed to have had a horrific incident there. Now I'll touch base on that one real briefly before I get into this other one, so you'll have some perspective. If I believe correctly, this guy has, I remember his first name. The last name was Butler, but and I don't think he asked us for anonymity. But anyway, I usually do anyway. It's just better policy. But this guy, he was up there, and they were like from the Northeast or something, and he saw these, and they didn't even know it was haunted. They were there to visit the Alamo, which is haunted real bad. I mean, it's big time. They saw a person on a gurney, like, being moved. And what was crazy was that this dude that was on the gurney lifted his head up and began to talk to them. I think it was him and his wife, and they were getting in the elevator. Now, that story, I remember, we told that on the show, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and so I was like, I was blown away by that. Well, this woman said, "Hey, I got a story for you right here in San Antonio." Now, she had driven all the way from Louisiana to come to this paranormal festival, which I thought was interesting. And she said, "I have a story that I would like you to retell on the show when you get a chance." Okay. What she told me was really, really creepy. Now, this is the second story I've gotten about the Emily Morgan since we talked about that guy's and his wife's encounter. What she told me was that she was staying the night at the Emily Morgan, and I think she said she was on the 8th floor. I'm not 100% if that was correct. I think that's what she said, because I had 2 or 3 people trying to talk to me at one time. We were having like 3 different conversations. And so I talked to her, and she said that what this incident that happened to her did was give her lifelong, after this, she was like 22 years old when it happened. She said it gave her lifelong nightmares and anxiety. It was 20 years ago. She's 42 now. And she said when this thing, she was getting up out of the bed, her boyfriend, who was at that time was her boyfriend, they're now married, was going downstairs to eat breakfast. She was lagging behind. And she said, when I get out of the bed, something grabs my leg. And she's like, I can't pull away from it. I'm trying to pull away from it. She's like, I can't get it, And she's like, I'm looking down. I don't see anything. There's nothing there. So something's grabbing my leg, but there's nothing there. And she's like, and I'm trying hard to pull away. And she's like, and when I finally pull, it's like whatever it was, like a hand let go. And I fall forward and I fall and hit my knee. She said, and then I'm yelling. I'm like, oh my gosh. So she's like, she can't get up fast enough because her leg is messed up. So she went from worrying about whatever it was grabbing her to the pain of her leg. And it was like this thing crawled up onto her, and it was not flesh and blood at all, but she could feel it like it was flesh and blood, but it was not visible at all, but she could feel it like it was flesh and blood. So she's like, this was like an invisible but physical entity. And so I just thought, man, that's got to be, you know. So she begins to like wrestle. What does it say? I don't need it. But she said that she began to wrestle with this entity, and when she did, she finally was able to kind of squirm free, and she thought she had broken her knee. Her knee just ended up with a bone contusion, but she was like basically not able to walk very good for the next couple days, which kind of ruined their little vacation. And it was little short vacations, what I mean. And she said, man, it was terrible. And she started kicking with her other leg to try to get this thing off. And she's like, I could feel like a face. She could feel everything like a man.
She just couldn't see anything.
She couldn't see him. She was like, it was almost like being attacked by the invisible man. She's like, I could feel everything. I could smell the breath. I could feel the breath smelled like whiskey and cigars. And so she said it was just a nightmare, you know. And, you know, you got to wonder about that. That is a crazy story. She said there was one other little small thing that happened that was a prelude to this. But for the most part, that was what happened. It was just this crazy, like, attack by some sort of, like, invisible man entity. And she said that, man, I'll tell you what, she's Catholic, and she said she reached up onto the table and grabbed, she had a crucifix necklace, silver, very ornate, that her grandmother, her great-grandmother had given her mom, and which would have been her mom's grandmother. And so she said that she just held on to it, and she looked. Now, here's the crazy thing. What she said was, there was nowhere for this thing to have crawled out from underneath the bed, because at that time, I don't know if this is the case now or not, but at that time when it happened, she said that the bed was one of those where there was the bed was solid, a piece underneath it. There was no you couldn't look under the bed.
Yeah, it came as one.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh my gosh, because she said that the area below the bed was a solid piece. You couldn't look underneath it. Because I said, did it crawl back under the bed? She goes, I wouldn't know. I couldn't see it. And so that right there means, I don't know, something really, really dark and bad, or maybe a really evil human entity. Some people don't believe in that, but I mean, you know, you believe what you want. This is just what I'm telling you. People tell us. Now, was it trying to hurt her or scare her? I mean, obviously her falling and hitting her knee hurt her.
Yeah.
I mean, but, you know, you can speculate all day at what its purpose was. But I think it took a bunch of energy from her. That's what I think.
Oh, yeah, at the very least.
Yeah. But you guys can let me know in the comments what do you guys think?
I mean, that's exactly what I think. I think it took some energy from her and was just sitting there to scare her or bother her or affect her in some way so it could feed. Yeah.
Have you seen that movie, The Entity?
No. Yeah. Well, I saw a movie called The Entity. What is the one you're talking about?
It's like a movie that was made like back in the 80s. Or I think 80s, maybe late 70s, early 80s, something like
There's
that.
a scene in The Entity that was pretty...
But, okay, so it's a movie, and it's based on a real account. But it's a movie about this...
it's about a woman, right?
Yeah, it's a woman who keeps repeatedly, let's just say, getting violated by this entity. But this account just it reminds me of that movie, or of that real life account, of like these spirits, or these entities, spiritual entities, being able to actually do physical damage. Like they can hurt you.
Or just physically harass you, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to sound insensitive to her experience, but considering how bad it could have gotten, like, she should probably, she should probably consider herself lucky that it wasn't worse.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's such an evil thing, and that I have that like I even have to think about that because these things are so they can get so malicious and so violent. But that would scare the crap out of me too. I would have a panic attack. I'd just start freaking out because like you can't. I mean, okay. There's nothing you can do except cry out to Christ. You can start. I mean that's.
No, you literally cannot do anything.
Just call out to Jesus' name, with everything you have, and that's your only option. You can't fight this thing. You can't beat it up.
Maybe you can't, but I think I could take it.
You of all people cannot take it.
I think I could.
Okay.
Well, how do you know it was an invisible entity? You don't know what it looked like.
Yeah.
Might have been really weak.
Because it was invisible.
I don't understand what his point is.
I don't get it either.
I think he's just being mean.
I think you're being a hater.
I think you're being a hater.
How do you know
I
it's
just
an
think
invisible entity? You don't know what it looked like. Yeah. No kidding. It's invisible. I don't know what it
Yeah,
looks
so
like.
how do you know I can't take it?
Because you
I
can't.
just don't. I think you just don't believe in me, and that really hurts me because I believe in you.
Well, then that's the point.
I believe you can do anything.
You,
I mean,
you
besides
need,
look
you
good,
need
but
to be hurt. You need to be hurt more. Suffering is good for you. It builds character. Puts hair on the chest.
oh, okay.
Wow.
I thought
There you go.
I suffer enough looking at you.
Oh man.
Well, you need. I'm glad because you
You
sure
does
as
have
hell
a point though.
you sure as hell don't suffer in the gym. I'll tell you that.
Ooh,
You got a point too though.
we're both just
So,
attacking. each
so
other.
maybe you should spend more time looking at me to get some suffering
Yeah,
in.
It's painful.
I mean, you got to get stronger somehow because
Well,
definitely
then
not.
that's- I don't know.
His eyes.
I don't know if I can ever catch
Yeah.
up then, because then you suffer both in the gym, and then you have to wake up and look at yourself. So that's just painful on all fronts.
Oh, I have a
and,
piece of me.
and he got LASIK, so he really is able to see the details of his face.
I love.
That's a yikes
me.
from me,
He's all,
guy.
he's all fancy. He got that lace.
Unlike
We're
you.
blind over here.
You're a
I
blind.
love me.
Everyone in the house is blind besides this rich jerk.
But this rich man,
Yeah, Mr. Moneybags.
the monopoly guy over here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, folks. I had to eat a.
Rebecca, fight.
Feeling a little faint. Whoa.
You're right. Oh, did you see something?
Yeah.
Was there some weirdo at the door?
No, I saw something move really quickly. I'm not joking. Ever since that Brazilian Extras episode, I'm telling you, this place has been a zoo. You feel anything? It was weird. It just like went like that real quick. It's usually like going the opposite, like going toward the bathroom. It's like somebody has to use the bathroom in an alternate reality.
There was a guy out there. Or there was a guy out there when I went to check earlier.
I'm not
but-
talking about. I can't see like right here where I'm at. I can't see the door. Anyways, folks. So that's that story, and needless to say, they just checked out. Good thing though is the manager was okay with like giving them their money back. I guess they called the manager and said, "Hey, these people want to check out," and whatever. Next day, they were like they got refunded the room or whatever. So that was nice of. But I mean, that's somebody's story. Our encounters at the Emily Morgan were a lot more tame. We had some weird stuff happen, don't get me wrong. Like Nellie likes to point out that the faucets were turning off and on, and that the TV came on. Yeah, that all happened. We had a knock at the door. There was nobody there. And then we had the phone kept getting turned around and getting taken off the hook, which was really weird. Somebody says, Wolf, what about Brenda Harris, Navajo woman, great experiences? Brenda lives out in, I think she still lives out in Brenham. I think she recently got married or something. But I interviewed her for my book, so. So anyways, moving on from that, there is another story or grouping of stories we got from the Emily Morgan. This one particular this woman, she had a pretty terrifying experience. She went to the restroom. Her name is Amy, and she gave me this story. She lives up in the Pacific Northwest, and they were down visiting, and they wanted to stay in a haunted hotel. So they stayed one night at the Manger. Nothing happened, and which it's haunted, you know. Then she goes and they stay at the Emily Morgan. And now here's the thing: the first night, she said we checked in like on a Saturday. She said that there was nothing going on. It was about 10 years ago. She said it was pretty tame. We went out to the Riverwalk. We went to Ripley's, Believe It or Not. What is it? The other ones they have there, all those on the Strip, the Alamo, and then across from the Alamo.
Oh yeah, those little, they have that
Guinness World Records.
well, the wax museum.
The Wax Museum.
Yeah.
So they did all that stuff. They said all the, you know, we've done all that multiple times.
Lots
Fun
of times.
stuff.
I mean, every time it's cool to see.
It's fun, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they did all that and they had fun, and then all hell breaks loose on the third night they were in San Antonio, which was the Sunday night. They stayed at the Emily Morgan. It was the second night there, and she wanted to take a bath. I don't know. Started to run the water, and she could not get the water hot. But then when she goes into the other room and starts talking to her husband, he goes in there and says, well, your bath is ready. He checks the water, okay, because she had taken a phone call, talked to him or whatever, then the phone rang. She was talking to him. He goes in there, checks the water, gives her the thumbs up, and walks back out. She goes and she sticks her leg in the water, and it was so hot that she fell backwards and bruised her hip. And when he came back in there, he was in shock when he touched the water and saw how absolutely scalding hot it was, and it literally burned his hand. She ended up going to get checked out at the hospital because later on her leg was all red. This is what's really weird. She goes to the hospital, and when they get there to go in to see the doctor, like the pain goes away while she's getting checked in. She goes to the bathroom, looks at her leg, and there's nothing. There's no redness. There's nothing. This, what she thought might have been a first or second degree burn, somewhere in between that, you know. And there was nothing there. So she had to go back out and tell the nurses, hey, we're good. I guess everything's fine. So then she goes back to the hotel room. She goes to the front and talks to the hotel clerk. And the clerk, just like what they told us, we don't really discuss about the hauntings. It's not really something that we're supposed to do. Now, the bartenders did. The bartenders were like, hey, man, this place is haunted. This is messed up. But she goes and she says, is this place haunted? And the girl was like, well, you know, I mean, you know, it is, but we're not officially not supposed to talk about it. That's kind of their policy. And she's like, okay, because we knew that it was supposed to be haunted or whatever. But, you know, after the first day, I mean, they figure it out. She's like, but I didn't realize that it was, you know, like this. You know, I literally, she told her about the water. The clerk was not surprised, didn't go balk and go, oh, can't believe something like that happened, you know. And she's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, there's been some stuff. She's like, have you ever heard of something like that happening? She's like, I've heard of people getting pushed, all kinds of stuff. They had a crew go in there one time looking for a ghost, and their EMF meter got snatched out of their hands and slammed against a wall. And that's one of the crews that I was, they told me this last night at the Paranormal conference, and they said that one of the crews from San Antonio had that happen. I don't know about the validity of that, but that's what somebody was saying. One of the vendors that was there, or somebody was hanging out with one of the vendors. And I thought, that's pretty aggressive haunting. I know the bookstore there in San Antonio, the Barnes & Noble used to be Barnes & Noble. It's right there at the Riverfront Mall. That place is notoriously haunted because right there on that spot is where many people were executed. So the books will fly off the shelves, literally. A lot of weird stuff has happened there. Anthony, I know you remember this when we were there, and Tony too. Remember we were there with Adrian a few years ago, your brother.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was at the conference, if anybody went to the conference, I know who he is. And we were talking to the people at the was it not the was it the one with the roller coaster deal? Like when you shoot, you know, you have the little, you go and there's like a roller coaster.
Oh yeah.
What is that one called?
I don't remember the name of it.
It gets dark up in there, and then you go up in there, and it gets whatever. Well, I was talking to the girl that worked there, and with Nellie, and she was saying that, and I know you guys were around right there, but she was saying that place at night, when it's just her and another coworker, they'll be on opposite ends of the place, and they'll hear each other's names being called, and both of them that were working that night that we were there, they saw a full-bodied apparition, like just walk out of the wall and go through the front, talking to someone that used to be a bartender at the Buckhorn about 20 years ago. And I talked to that guy and interviewed him about the Buckhorn Museum and how haunted it was. And he said that thing says 684.
Yeah.
Did it just jump like that?
Yeah, it was like at about 600 and then jumped to 684.
Wow. Okay. But anyways, there it goes down to 680, and then it'll probably just plummet and then go back up. But anyway, he was telling me that they would see a woman come. This is the Buckhorn Saloon down the road from there, and it's probably what 2-3 blocks from Emily Morgan, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, all of it was in walking distance.
It's all right there by the Alamo.
Yeah.
The Buckhorn has been there for a long time. I think they said 1860s or 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It was 1850s.
It's an old place.
Yeah, it was after the Alamo, but it was there. And so they said that there was a woman that would go up to the balcony. There's like a balcony there. It's a really nice place, cool place. It's called the Buckhorn Saloon. If you ever go into San Antonio, go check it out. They have a huge collection of taxidermied animals. And the tradition there was that when people would come in, hunters from out in the bush, because there's wilderness everywhere out there, they would come in and they would bring a set of antlers. They have this huge collection of antlers there. And if you gave them the antlers, they would give you like a free drink. And I think you got something else comp too, because the brothel was above. There used to be a brothel up there, okay?
That's where they just took their knickers off, right?
Yeah, that's all they did there. They didn't do anything else. It was just a dancing show. Yeah, we'll say that. But what they did was they just ended up with a humongous collection. And then they have like Bowie knives and old pistols and all kinds of stuff from the Alamo. It's a really neat place. You can go check it out. We went in and had a drink. That was about 20 years ago, and I was in there with some friends, and we were hanging out in San Antonio because I used to like to hang out in San Antonio some too, because it's like my second favorite city, and then third is Fort Worth. Unless you went to the conference, you went to White Settlement. White Settlement, not my cup of tea. It was so
that area
not
out there was
good
so
looking.
ugly.
It was the ugliest area, but the people were really nice. But, you know, I like to hang out at the stockyards and go to the rodeo, stuff like that. That's where the fun is at in Fort Worth. But so San Antonio, fun city, cool place to go to. I also like Corpus. I like Port Aransas. There's certain places I like to go. They all have their own mystique. I was talking to some guys from Corpus earlier today at the convention, not the paranormal one, the collectors convention, and they were talking about, you know, how haunted Corpus was and how many crazy things there. It's the truth. Corpus is a very haunted city too. A lot of creepy stuff there. I had a weird night in a hotel in Corpus one time. Oddly enough, it didn't affect me because I was kind of in and out, you know, but it did affect a couple people that I was with, in particular my brother. Said that he felt like somebody scratched his back. I don't know if he's in the chat or not tonight. But
the Buckhorn Saloon was in 1896.
The what?
The Buckhorn Saloon was in 1896.
Well, yeah, that might be when it was called the Buckhorn, but it was something before that. Yeah, it was called something else, but it's been a saloon since 54. So, you know, where did you read that or what?
No, Scorp just sent it on a text.
Well, good for him. He was there. Scorp was with me when that bartender was talking about the female that would come and stand on the balcony or whatever. But so what's crazy, though, when you look at this whole area around the Alamo, there are tons and tons of ghost stories just pouring out of that place. When I walked into the Black Swan, which is actually in northwest San Antonio?
Yeah.
Okay, when we were in northwest San Antonio, and you kind of have to get off of the main road, and you go under a bridge, and then it's just right there. But it's like this wide open acreage that's in the middle of the city, and there's nothing around it, unless you go out past the back area and you just keep going, and you'll eventually get to the street. But it's just it's built up on the side of a hill, and I think it's just full of spirits. Nellie said it felt like there were thousands of them crawling around on her. You know, she's like, it was just weird. Like they were just, you could feel them. And some of them were very malevolent. And I know the owner had said something about her. And I'm going to try and interview her at some point. But she said that there was something in the attic that was demonic that would sleep. Is what she say where her daughter sleeps?
Yeah.
And Ken was just like, you let your daughter sleep underneath something like that? I mean, people like really will take chances with these entities, and I wouldn't do it. The thing that scratched my brother, if I remember correctly, when we were in Corpus, he woke up and there was just like these 2 scratch marks down his back, and we couldn't figure out what the heck it was or how it happened. I had something weird happen though. I was standing right there by the door, and I was talking. I think I was talking to Scorp, and I just heard like that. And when I said, hold on, when I opened the door, there was I looked out, there was nobody there. You know? And we stayed at a haunted hotel in Houston, right there by the stadium. The girl at the counter and the guy there was working. He was kind of backing up what she was saying. I really didn't speak to him. He was busy. But he was kind of nodding his head. But she told us some scary stories about that hotel. But nothing happened in that hotel at all. But one of the stories she told us was that there was a couple that had come from France, and that they were staying in Houston, and they were going to travel around Texas, and they had gone all through the South, and they were just going to go all the way across the United States and go up and then go back across, kind of like a square, skipping the stuff in the middle. It doesn't matter. I'm kidding, folks. If you're from the middle, it's fine. But they were in Houston, and they had just gotten into Texas, and they go to go swim. Now, the people in that particular hotel, they said that they were nice enough to say, okay, you want to go swim, we're going to let you go. It was the one where they picked us up in the Maserati. You remember that hotel?
Yes.
Yeah, we went
I
to the
think
game.
it was so cool. It was, I remember that because of that.
Mm-hmm.
What hotel was that? I wouldn't.
There was
Right
that
there
one, and then the
downtown.
one we stayed at where the elevator was right there by our room, and we kept hearing it all night.
Mm-hmm.
God, that was annoying. as shoot, man.
That Maserati one was cool.
That place was haunted, though. And I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it's right there. It's close to the stadium, to Minute Maid Park.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a crazy story. Now, and I'm going to tell you 2 or 3 about this. I'm going to tell you. This couple from France, they came down, and they were from Brittany in France, right? And they were like, hey, we want to go swim. And they were, according to the hotel clerk, she's like, we were nice, and we let them use the pool. Well, the next day when I was talking to the morning girl about that, she said, no, I remember that night. And she goes, they gave us like $200. And so we told them, hey, when everybody goes to bed, midnight, we'll let you into the pool. So she's like, we risked our jobs, but we split it, But yeah, that was crazy. So they let them swim, and she's like, big mistake. There's a camera, you can see on camera, whatever. The security guard was told, hey, it's okay, let them swim, whatever. He has to run in there and literally jump into the water in full uniform and pull this girl out of the water. Now, here's what's crazy. The security guard, who I think she said his name was Ernest, she said Ernest, whatever, had jumped in, and he said that he was struggling to pull her out of the water, that there was something holding on to her. And when he got her out of the water, one of her legs was just red with whelps, and the other one a little less so. So they go and they look at this camera footage and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna get in trouble. We weren't supposed to let them do this." So they tried to give them their money back, and the people were like, "No, that's okay. It's okay." And the guy who was, he was pretty okay. He was just like, no, I get it. You have ghosts. He goes, "We have ghosts all over France. It's okay. You have ghosts. We know. But thank you. She's going to be okay. And so they go upstairs. And then the next day, when she talked to her before she left, she said that she looked and her legs were fine. There was no red marks, no whelps, nothing to indicate that there had been. But the security guard was really freaked out. So he came back the next night and sounds like one of our guys. He's a trooper. But then that next night, he heard splashing around in the pool area because the pool area, supposedly, when the area was haunted. But we swam in that pool. Yeah. And nothing happened. And we used the gym facility, too. But he said he was walking down the hallway, and when he turned, he felt something hit him on his back. And then he turns and he looks. The door to the pool is open by itself. And he looks down on the ground, and there's a flip-flop. So he goes, and right when he's getting ready to get to the door, he goes, "I'm reaching for my arm." This is what the girls told me. The door closes really fast. So then he has to pull his card out and then tries opening it over and over again. And he's looking in. He can't see. It's not working. So he radios to the front desk and says, "Hey, can you,
check the cameras.
Check the camera." And they look. He goes up to the front. There's nobody there. Two of them, the swing shift person who was just getting off duty and the other person was coming on. So one of them stayed up front, and the person that was finishing their shift, she went with him. When they went over to the door to open it, it opened right up. What they did find sitting right there in front of the door was one flip-flop, which was the left flip-flop that matched the right flip-flop that had been thrown at him. So that story was really intriguing, and I thought, that's crazy. But after that particular incident, that didn't even make him quit yet. What made him finally quit that place was that he was walking down the hall, and there was what he thought was an argument going on, and the door was partway open, so he goes to push the door open. It's kind of like that Staybridge Suite where we used to work. Remember how the door would be open?
Yeah.
Up in 213 or whatever, or 218. So then this thing, the door opens part way, so he's like, knocks on the door, and he's like, "Security," he hears arguing. He walks in immediately. The arguing stops. He looks around the room. He doesn't see anything. He knows there's nobody in there because it is haunted. He's had some weird stuff happen to him up to this point, but it had never gotten like this. He turns around. They said this was about a week and a half after the flip-flop incident where he got hit by the flip-flop. Sounds kind of silly, but if you're Mexican, you have a mom, probably hit you with the flip-flop. So it ain't fun. Mm-hmm. So he turns around to walk out, and he feels like a hand, which he said was cold as ice, not talking to me, but telling these girls, and that it went over his mouth and started to try to pull him back into the room. Mm. He also felt like a stabbing pain in his lower spine that emanated all the way to his abdomen, which I thought was interesting. I mean, and I feel bad for the guy. I don't know him, but they said he was a very large guy. He wasn't no chicken guy, And so he got out. He quit. And that was the end of that. And then actually, I think he's actually doing security from what I was told at that time, which was just a couple of years ago when we were down there, that he had gotten a job working security for the Astros, which I don't know if that's true or not, but if he did, cool. Yeah. But and just working at the stadium. Now, here's the thing I can tell you. All these places have stuff that goes on, but I think it depends upon if you're in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. Depends on how you look at it, whether or not something happens. And I will tell you this one, the other one. The woman who was at the Emily Morgan, remember her? Now she goes back. This is the woman that burned the leg, whatever. Mm-hmm. She goes back to the Emily Morgan that night. That's the second night they were in San Antonio. And guess what? They get a knock on the door. It's like 12:30 at night. And her husband goes up to answer the door. and opens the door. There's nobody there. Next morning, about 7 a.m., same thing. They get woken up bright and early, 7 a.m. Nobody there. Go out, open the door. They get woken up, and then they're like, man, we're going back to sleep. They go, like the husband and wife are both standing there at the door. They go to turn around and look, and their bedspread, their sheet, everything had been yanked off and thrown onto the floor. So, yeah, I would be extremely aggravated. You wake me up, knocking on the door.
Yeah, it's pretty petty.
And I believe this was, what is that top floor we were on? Because she said it was the top floor.
I mean, like we weren't on the top floor, but our floor was the
Which
old
floor
surgical
was it?
floor. I think it was like the 12th floor or something
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
I don't remember.
That's funny.
What is the top floor there? Look it up. I don't know. I haven't done a lot of research other than what I've been told there.
In other hotels, people knock on the door to clean your room. In this one, they knock on the door to mess up your room.
Knock on the door. Anti-housekeeping? Anti-housekeeping? They throw your soap in the trash. You don't need this. You're fine. Remember, kids, you're clean enough. You don't need to bathe. Nah. Just go out in public however you want.
Don't brush your teeth. You're going to lose them anyway.
I was at the Alpine House today, and it was,
Oh, man. Alpine House is so
yeah,
good.
it was great.
I love it so much.
But there was this guy there, and he was just, I mean, I know how it is. Young people, they don't care about their appearance. He was wearing, like, not flip-flops. He was wearing house shoes with socks. And he was wearing warm-ups and a hoodie. It was 94 degrees outside. Hat on backwards at the table. It just, come on, man. The kids.
Yeah, I don't get the obsession with hoodies. If you're 25 or below, you have like some kind of generational obligation to wear a hoodie all year round. 100 degrees, 10 degrees, doesn't matter. Just wear a hoodie. People are reptilians.
It is nice.
What?
I mean, I don't wear them all year round, but I do wear them quite a bit.
I've seen you wearing some long sleeve stuff this summer. I'm like, what the heck are you doing?
The summer, yeah. I don't know. It's that jungle in me, I guess, that enjoys the heat.
Oh.
But not in this weather. Now it's been like 106 and 7 and 9 and stuff.
Yeah, if you go now, Samuel says that they were always closed. They're open like every day now. But yeah, during the pandemic, everything was a little janky. We didn't know whether things were open or not, coming or going.
Well, I mean, it also they a bunch of other ones closed over there because of the
Yeah, what was it called? The one at the
what was the other house?
Oh, it's called Friesen House.
Friesen House. Yeah.
no, Friesen House burned down.
No, there's another one. There was
The other one that was on the river.
Oh,
What was that one called? We used to
yeah,
go there.
it's something different now. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, it's not there anymore. But it closed down because of COVID.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It was
that
good
one.
though. That place was good, and I remember
Yeah.
going into the bathroom and hearing a noise in there, like somebody was behind me. Which I've had 2 weird experiences with the bathroom at Alpine House. And of course, the waitress there was like, "Yeah, this place is haunted, but it's something that hangs around by the bathroom." And I'm like, "Yeah, no crap, it does. It definitely did." What was the name of that place?
Sucks at the
River
Friesen.
House, or what was it called?
No,
Man,
Hofbrau.
Hofbrau.
Oh, there it
there
is.
you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, that place was good. I mean, I think they rivaled
Hofbrau, that
House
sucks
as
so
far as
much
the food.
too. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
definitely. It sucks because that's like you go there for the German food basically, and now there's basically only one place that has it now.
Mhm.
I hope more places open up out there.
Well, there's no other place that has it. I know that the smokehouse you can get like stuff to go, but what is that? I don't know. Well, anyways, the Alpine House is definitely the best. It's still there, but try to go check it out, Samuel. They have ghosts there too. Now, tell them what happened today while we were there. You remember what happened?
Oh yeah. So today, Phil Stern says Hofbrau, not Hofbrau. Phil, you understand that doesn't help. Hofbrau, not Hofbrau.
Hey Phil, our English is better than your.
Okay, either way.
Our
So we were eating at Alpine House or Haas to satisfy you, Phil, because that's why we're here, right? And the kitchen was behind us, and we hear like a big glass shatter, like someone dropped a glass or a bunch of glasses and it just shattered. And all the staff, the waitresses, they were like up front with us, and two of them kind of met like at the doorway to the kitchen, and they both looked at each other and they were like, nobody was back there. Were you back there? No. Were you back? I wasn't back there. Were you back there? I wasn't back there. Nobody was back there. And apparently that's a regular thing that happens. Like they'll hear like glasses break or plates break. They've even seen glasses not just like fall off of the table or off the counter, but just like if this is here, it just like goes flying. You know, like someone just like swiped it off of the table. And I don't know how many glasses or plates broke, but it was loud, and there was nobody back there in the kitchen. So yeah, that was really weird.
Do you think that's what happened when that lady spilled all that stuff onto you? That coffee or whatever?
Oh yeah, she spilled that on me on my birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get mad because she
It was definitely
she felt
an
terrible,
accident,
but it
yeah,
was like,
but-
She didn't look like she felt terrible.
No, she felt like she was great about it. But it was an
She
accident.
didn't look like, oh well, happened to you, not me.
I mean, she threw the rag at you and everything. She was like, "You clean it up." But
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, one of the things that I can say about these haunted locations, now people have told me things like, well, I went over there and I stayed there and I didn't have anything happen. I stayed at the Minger and didn't have anything happen. Same thing happened to me. I stayed at the Minger and it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that just because you didn't have an experience at that one particular time that you won't. I lived in a house that was haunted for 10 years, and stuff didn't happen constantly. It wasn't like Amityville Horror, like every day something's going on. But there were periods, especially like it would like run in spurts. There would be a lull, and then everything would kind of calm down, and then boom, a bunch of stuff would erupt, and then you'd be, it'd be crazy. And it would go on for however long, and then it would just kind of die out. When you're sitting there eating at the Alpine House, and you know that what had just happened, those waitresses even told us before we left because they know about what we do in our show, and they were talking about the ghosts. And the one waitress, the taller blonde one, she was saying to me and Nellie before we left that, or I think you might have been. Were you there, Anthony? When we were talking to her. When me and Nellie were talking to her.
Talking about what?
We were talking about the ghost.
I might have been in the restroom with that.
Because she said that she thought that the ghost had broken because there was nothing else around.
Yeah.
When that broke that stuff. And so she, one of the things that they believe that there are ghosts there, but it's not like you go eat there, you're just going to like see one. Now, the chances are higher than probably being at, just a regular old restaurant because that place is very old and it has a history of it. Another weird thing that happened was my wife and I think which one of y'all was it? It was one of you two, and it was either Scorp or D. It was one of them two. And then the cooks were outside, and Nellie, they saw what they thought was a UFO. Which one of y'all was that?
I think maybe I was there, but I wasn't there when they saw what they saw.
No, I didn't either.
Probably
I was in the
inside.
bathroom. I know you were in the bathroom because I was, and when I came out, y'all were outside.
Oh.
I don't remember if you were there or who was there. Somebody's texting me. Anyway, but yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on in these haunted places. I can guarantee you that the Black Swan Inn is haunted, 100% dude. If I ever had any doubt, then it's gone now. I felt like there was an oppressive feeling when I first walked in, and before you go straight into the sitting room, which you can see from like the porch when you get up there, you feel like there's something on you. You feel like there's something around you. You feel like there's some ghosts, just spirits, whatever. One of the things that I was told by one of the people that was there last night was that they had been there for another occasion, and they saw something that looked like a black shadow come or walk up the hill and go into the house, walk like a person, but it was a solid black entity walking with legs. I mean, it was just like as plain as day. There were 3 people standing there. So I know that these things they can move around. They can manipulate. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on. But that's some ghost stories right there.
That makes me curious.
Before you say that, the one other thing that happened to this woman, besides getting burned and then having their stuff thrown on the ground and then, getting the knock on the door, and this was probably the most terrifying thing. Middle of the night, she wakes up and she can't breathe. She feels like something is squeezing her lungs, like literally squeezing her lungs. And she felt like there was something on her back. Like when she sat up, she could feel a heaviness pushing her forward, and it was like on her back. And she said that when she sat up and tried to go to the bathroom, she felt like something was on top of her. Literally felt like a presence on top of her. She goes into the bathroom. She looks into the mirror, and for a split second, she sees this black creature, for lack of a better term, with red eyes. And then she turned the light on, and it was like she could see it from the light that was by the lamp. She turned the lamp on out there. She walks in before she even turns the light on. She sees it in the mirror. And then when she turns the light on fully in the bathroom, it's gone. So that would have been extremely terrifying. She said it was like a small, impish-looking entity. That was the words that she used. So I don't know. If you want to be scared, there's a hotel you can go stay at, and you can go eat at Alpine House. I mean, I don't know.
You get scared over there too. Well, I'm curious about what these shadow beings or ink beings are. Like, are they just? They're not obviously not just your atypical ghosts. I think. I mean, but you do seem to see them like a lot more frequently. I think than some other ghosts, where a lot of people have seen shadow beings moving real quickly in the corner of their eyes, or they'll see a shadow move real quick, and then when they look, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But like full body apparitions are seem to be a lot more rare, apparently, or not rarer, just comparatively to shadow beings. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say they're probably less prevalent, but if the haunting is thick enough, you will see things like full-bodied apparitions.
Do you think so? Do you think it's like the prerequisite, and before it becomes a haunting, is like you'll get these shadow beings that come first, and then once it becomes bad enough, then you'll start seeing more full-body apparitions, or do you think it's just like whatever comes?
Well, did you hear of the history of the Black Swan Inn, Anthony, when they were talking about it?
No, I wasn't there at that point.
Yeah, they were talking. I think it was before you went in. It was me and Nellie. But one of the things that we heard from some of the people that how they were in the back and they were trying to communicate with the ghosts and all that. Not typically I don't really like being in places when they're doing stuff like that. So we walked back out. But one of the people was kind of giving a history of it, and there were 2 murders and like 2 suicides, from what this person was saying. And I was just like, that's enough for me. I'm good, And I just, I got out of there. I didn't want to be inside that house any longer than I had to be. I would say, if you're looking at like, wanting to go somewhere to check something out, ghost hunt, whatever. If it was me, I would literally. I'm just going to strongly advise that you don't do it. Okay, I know that people like to go up there with their EMF readers, and they like to go and they question the ghost, or they'll even do like, Ouija boards and all this. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do those things because the chances of you communicating with something that it's going to lie, whatever it is. You might make contact with an entity, but you're probably going to end up taking it with you. So.
Well, especially in areas like that, I would feel a lot more comfortable doing it in like some random area where like there's just random spirits around. But in high concentrated areas like that where the energy is bad and it's not like it's haunted for good reasons or it's like there's just decent ghosts around where it is the ghosts around here are creepy and they leave a bad energy in the area. Why would you want to contact them? Why would you want them to come? Why would you want to interact with them at all? And because there's a higher likely that they'll be attached to you and they'll come back with you.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing. No matter how much, no matter how much you think you know, you don't understand what you are doing. I mean, like what the mind of these spiritual beings, who knows how long their lifespans are compared to yours or mine, compared to ours. It's like we're little toddlers. You know, they know what they're doing, and if you're playing around with this ghost hunting nonsense, you're stepping into their world and you're in their element. You know, I mean, that you do not understand what you are doing. Leave it alone. Just go home. Go find a better hobby. Find a smarter hobby because it's not a very smart one.
Rest in peace to Sal, but as he always said, you're nothing but blind boys in the forest.
Blind boys.
What was it?
He said a 5-year-old blind kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're nothing
I mean,
but
like,
blind
that's what-
boys. The lost boys.
I mean, like those people that were going around with with their whatever EMF readers, and they had some app on their phone, and they were going around through the house and asking questions and poking at stuff, and it's like, is there a ghost here? Is there a spooky ghost here? Yes, there's a spooky ghost here. Leave it alone.
Well, that's like
I walked out because they just, I didn't want to be around them. They were aggravating me.
Are you talking about the ghost hunters that were there last night?
I mean, I guess that's what they call themselves. It's just like average Joe schmoes and couples and stuff like going all throughout the Victoria. I mean the Black Swan Inn.
That's what they were doing last night when I was in there.
Yeah, and like they even had this closet, like it was like a small closet, and the whole inside of the closet was painted black, and all that was inside the closet was a rocking chair on one end, and then the other end was a mirror with a candle set up in front of it, and there were people going in there, and there was no light inside, obviously. And there were people going in there and closing the door and playing around with that.
Wow.
and one thing I really dislike is when you'll see them holding those those readers, and then they'll sit there and they'll antagonize ghosts or they'll antagonize them.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the heck is wrong with you? When we had Rick Atchison on, and he was talking about using the antagonization to force them to show themselves or force a response for a certain reason, that's one thing. But when you're just doing that to antagonize them, to get them to show themselves so that you can prove that you saw it or it can affect you somehow, not so that you can get rid of it or so you can fight a war. What are you, stupid? What do you expect to happen? Like, what do you want to happen? It just boggles my mind every time I see it.
Yeah, and then they put it on TV and they act like that's reality. But
I start rooting for the ghosts at that point. I'm like, I wish they would start fighting back.
I wish that they would smack certain individuals to do that. Can't stand their ridiculousness. But so moving on from ghosts, what do we want to talk about next? What's the final subject here?
Yeah, we got a little bit of time.
Dogman. It's gonna be Dogman. He's like, oh no, I'm gonna throw you a curve. No Dogman tonight. Screw that. I'm gonna talk about that weird creature. So I did not get any Dogman stories last night, but I still got plenty of them. They're always around. So I guess since we were talking about New Braunfels and we were talking about River Road. The River Road Drive through there, I'll tell you a Dogman story from that area. And this one was like near Canyon Lake. Now, you want to look it up, and I think these things live near dams, too. It's really weird. I've heard of them, near dams, like in Louisiana and all over Texas. People see them. I don't know what the connection there is to that. I don't know if it's just the water or what. But do you remember when we were going around? There's a dam right there at Canyon Lake, and then we were kind of going around, which is just the Guadalupe dammed up. But then we kind of veered off and went. Well, that area right there, I got a story, and I think that it's that area, but on the other side of it. And somebody was driving along on one of these county roads up in there, and it was close to the dam. And I don't know which road, if it was what was the one we were on, River Road, but it turned into another highway. If I had the names of it, I could probably tell you.
Let me see.
Just look up the roads over there. This story was given to me a while back, but I was going to save it for something that when we did maybe an investigation over that, which we have been investigating the reports over there.
Guess the River Road.
By Canyon Lake. What road is that it becomes?
It ends at
Landa Park.
No.
becomes South Access Road, and that's where the dam is. South Access Road, and it ends at Highway 306.
306. Okay, so that would probably be River Road is near Land Park. Yeah, it's near it, but not. That's only in the south part of it. When you get further north and then you keep going, it'll end up like Devil's Backbone, and it'll end up Purgatory Road, that area. But what ends up happening, there was somebody who was driving through there, and they were alone. They were by themselves, and they saw something that can only be described as something low-crawling in the ditch. The creepy thing was that it was keeping up with their vehicle that was going like 50 to 55 miles an hour. And when he looks over to his right, as he's driving, heading south on the road that we were just talking about, he's coming around the curve, and he says, dude, I see this thing. At one point, I thought I'd seen it run down the side of this dam, which was really odd. He's like, and then it like gets up to the road where I'm at in my truck. I look over. He's like, I got a Chevy Silverado. I was moving pretty fast. And this wolf-headed creature, wolf-like creature, was running almost like, this is my words. And I asked him, I said, would you describe it as the low crawling you saw? Would you describe it as spider crawling? And he said, like how a spider crawls? He goes, yeah, I guess kind of. I said, that's what I thought. I'm not saying, and I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth or ideas in his head, right? Because I don't want to pollute the witness's story. But the way that it was being described to me was that, yes, it was low crawling. They didn't get a great look at the hands or the feet. I say hands because it looked like it had arms, so it was crawling. It was man-like, but it was crawling on all fours. Had like shoulders, when they were splayed out. And he said that it was just starting to get dark, so he got a good look at it when it was laying. It was on the side. It was just it went dark. This thing kept up with him for like a mile and a half. Now, if this is a physical flesh and blood creature that just has the ability to be a flesh and blood creature, how the hell does it run alongside a person's vehicle going 55, 60 miles an hour? Because he said he sped up. And he said that he probably topped out at about 60, 65, but he was like almost wrecking trying to get,
And especially in that form, because like spider crawling makes me think like they're kind of sprayed out like this or whatever, where naturally, I could expect it if they were running like how a dog or, a cheetah would run, but running all splayed out like that and crawling like that and doing it at that speed is just unnatural.
Yeah, War Criminal, I've heard your encounter. Actually just spoke to Elijah earlier today, and he gave me the rundown of it. He was in the vehicle with you guys, but he didn't see it. He didn't get a good look at it like you and Gabby did. Gabby being Gabrielle Henderson. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Eventually this creature went up and out into the woods, and he kept going. About 3 miles down the road from where it veered off, after sticking with him for about a mile and a half, It comes, well, he believes it's the same creature. It comes crawling out of the woods and crosses over to the road on 2 legs. Crawls out of the woods, gets up to the road, takes a couple steps on all fours on the road, pops straight up, and then runs across the road on 2 legs. Like purposely trying to go out in front of his vehicle, in front of his truck. Why? What was the purpose of that? Like, what purpose does that serve to come bolting out of the woods and stand up? Is it just to show what you can do? Like, what's the purpose of that? Like, what purpose does that serve?
Got a good stretch, maybe.
You know? And he asked me, like a lot of people do, they're like, do you think I'm crazy? Did you? I say, absolutely. Good gosh, man. Don't message me anymore. Go away. Don't ever talk to me. Don't look at my show. We're not friends. Get out of here. I'm going to kick you off of Facebook and tell me you're crazy.
That's what we say to all of our.
As I say to all the witnesses.
Yeah.
And it works. It's negative, positive reinforcement. Then I call them back and be like, look, but I'll be your friend, if
They may all think you're crazy, but I got you, buddy.
you join my Patreon, I might let it slide.
You got to give them the carrot and the stick.
Yeah, exactly. But no. So I talked to him, and I said, he asked me if you've heard anything. I said, yeah, I have heard of that. Something that will be going alongside of a person's vehicle, and it'll veer off into the darkness, and then it'll come running out in front of their vehicle. Why they do that, and why I've heard these reports, and I've heard other podcasters talk about it, or I've heard authors say it. What, in y'all's opinion, and I'm asking the chat too. I mean, what's the purpose of that? Is it a flex?
This is an interesting thing that made me. It says, I think, Demios Mars says, I think they revealed themselves like that to mark you. And that kind of made me think of what I said a couple episodes back about how, what if, like, the marking is less something that they do to you and is more like something you do yourselves. And my reasoning in that is that what if they show themselves to you, or if you see something unnatural enough, it'll open your mind's eye. And what they're recognizing in people isn't like that they're marking you or like they put a special scent on you, is that they just recognize who has the ability to see, who has their mind's eye open. So like when he stood up like that, it was to open his eye in a way so that he could recognize them later on, or maybe just affect them in that way. But so like they show themselves so to I guess in a sense mark you, but not that you're like specifically marking you, but more to like open your eye or whatever to it.
I don't know that that's the purpose of them revealing themselves. I mean, maybe that's like a side effect, but I don't believe that that's the purpose. I mean, if this thing stepped out in front of someone's vehicle, and it clearly had no fear of being run over, I mean, maybe that's because it knew that if he just kept going, then it really wouldn't hurt him. I mean, maybe they're again, it's just not a purely flesh and blood creature.
Well, maybe it is a flesh and blood creature, but it's going through a lot, and it was just trying to unlive itself. I don't think that you're thinking of that possibility. Or maybe it just needed an
adjustment. But if you walked into a chiropractor's office, they're going to freak out and start.
What do you guys think about what would have happened if they would have hit it? What do you think would have happened?
I mean, maybe they just would have went through it, because we've had accounts of people like just going through these things.
That is true.
Multiple accounts.
Yeah.
What happens if they hit it and then and that doesn't happen? But they don't kill it, and then scenario, and anybody in the chat wants to answer this, they end up having to shoot it, and then they don't kill it with that either.
Run
with what? You get in your truck to drive away? Things can.
The thing runs 55. You're not going to run away.
I don't mean run. I mean, drive.
Well, I mean, already, like, okay, in this scenario, you've already hit it once, so your car isn't doing well. Because if it survived that and it also survived a gunshot wound, that means that your car is not in a position where you could drive away easily. And especially getting away from something that can run 55 miles an hour after you. So you're kind of just screwed, especially if, let's say that they do it for a certain reason of trying to stop you, specifically for trying to stop you. what if it just ran in front of you to get you to hit it or to get you to stop, so that they have other ones out there that are like ready?
Yeah, like maybe they're doing a pack thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense if that's what's going on. I mean, that could make sense.
That would suck for that the one that has to get hit all the dang time. Then
And another thing too, like, what are you guys' thoughts on how to kill them? It's like you have to hit them in the eye, because that seems to be most of the time.
Well-
unless they're shooting them in the eye, they're not doing anything.
the eyes are the window to the soul. What if that saying has a lot more meaning than just the base level that we think it does? Maybe if like it is actually true, maybe there is some connection of the spirit and the eye somehow.
Mm.
I don't know.
What kind of car are you driving though? Are you talking about the guy? He was driving a Chevrolet pickup, a Silverado. I mean, what do you mean? Yeah, I think it was like a 1500. So I don't know. I mean, I guess a full size truck like that, you know. Interesting too. I asked him this question. And I thought it might be pertinent. I was like, "Did you have a grill guard?" He didn't, but I told him, I said, you should get one just in case. Maybe in the future you have to knock the crap out of one and send it flying. One of the questions I get asked about a lot, and I think it's, I think it has some merit. People will ask this question. They say, dude, I want to defend myself against one of these creatures, because you have to if it attacks you. But do we just shoot one of these that we feel threatened by? Because what happens to us if it actually is a man that shapeshifts, and then it turns back into a man after it dies? Now, there have been cases of people who have shot people and said that person was changing into some sort of reptilian or werewolf, whatever. And from what I know, it hasn't really held up in court. It's sort of a plea, which I think oftentimes turns into an insanity plea. I was reading one from years ago, and this guy had sent it to me. It was in an email. Now, I haven't gone in and looked at that, so don't quote me on it until I go back and I can ascertain whether it's real. But I just got this one on Friday night. I just got this one, and it was literally somebody right after the show that said, "Hey, I know somebody who shot someone that was shapeshifting, and it was turned to be a person, but they copped the plea of self-defense." They said it was in Louisiana. I don't know if that's true, but I guess the lawyer advised against him. This is a person very close to them, but they said the lawyer advised against that. And it's, the person was like, well, what I shot was a wolf-like creature, and then that's a man. I don't know. Did not, I don't believe it killed the person, but it was being pursued legally. They were being pursued legally. And that person was like, well, that person was not human. Mm-hmm. And the lawyer was like, we're not going to. So what ended up happening, they had to plead temporary insanity. And they copped a plea, and then I think that whatever parish that was in, which they call them parishes in Louisiana, not counties. And they said, if I remember reading it correctly, they said, no, well, that's, we'll accept that. And they just threw himself on the mercy of the court, and he got like 2 years in jail, which I would have done time for that if what really happened was that. But how do you explain that? And people ask me all the time that what happens if a scenario like that comes up? That'd be like a nightmare. You get attacked by a creature, you go to defend yourself, you shoot it, and it's a man. It would be a nightmare. Like, how do you?
I guess you just can't be truthful about what really happened. Like, I mean, I guess you just
can't be truthful.
Yeah,
I would just have to say like it was a man who attacked me and I defended myself. Like I wouldn't. I guess
He
I
was
would.
a psycho or something.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say that it was a cryptid or whatever because you just can't trust the government.
Just pull out like an old pocket knife and put it in his hand. You came at me with a knife. Look, I don't know.
Do the old,
Came at me with a
crazy.
chainsaw.
Yeah.
do the old Dave
What's supposed to
Chappelle.
do?
Just sprinkle some crack on him.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like at that point, it's time to, I don't know, come up with a lie. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
Because like in your heart, you know you didn't do the wrong thing, but you can't trust the government to choose the right choice.
Yeah.
So many things that could happen too. One of the things I was talking with you and Nelly about last night was we went over a couple cases where I think that these people are absolute psychopaths or sociopaths, and I think that the hauntings that their loved ones were going through was not affecting them. One person in particular had a very and this is interesting. I don't know if we should do a show about it or what, but I was doing some ideas with Anthony and Nelly, and I was telling them about some of these cases. We were going over some of the reports, and I had just gotten done with Bettina and Abe. We'll go check that out. It was on Bettina's show last night. And it may become a regular thing where I just, for a little while anyway, I go over there and I do a show with her on Saturdays on her channel, so we can get it to grow, because I think that she does really good work, and I think that her, Lyle, and Barton, their channels need to grow. We're all allies, big time, so it would be better for a Paranormal Roundtable to have a coalition of channels where we're all.
You're only as strong as your weakest link, so.
Yeah. So
I mean, not to call anyone here a weak link.
You're pretty weak, though. Would you be the weakest link, or?
Oh no! I'm the face. I'm the strongest link.
Okay, who's the weakest one?
Nelly, I guess.
Wow, he's gonna throw Nelly in the bus because Nelly's not here to defend herself.
Yeah.
Nelly, just defend. You gotta say something. Just speak up.
You can't trust these Charlies right here.
Oh my gosh, dude.
He's sneaky like that.
So what ends up happening is this particular person, I believe, was it was a sociopath. It was a person who doesn't have any kind of another thing you can't do with these people is supposedly you can't startle them, which one of my friends, she's a chiropractor, and her husband, Chris, I think is a sociopath. I really do. I don't think you can startle him. I don't think it's possible. He's very cowardly, but I don't think he would, and I don't like him. So if you're listening, Chris, I'm talking about you. Yeah, you're a piece of crap. Okay, I'm gonna say it right there. And I think he would do something if it wasn't for us or for me. And I do. I think you would. Just so you know, and I know what you're up to. I know how abusive you are. So anyway, the thing is, what really grabs me is that these people. They have loved ones who have encounters with cryptids or ghosts or whatever, and it doesn't faze them. Now, we talked to a guy named Cody who had a younger brother named Corey, and there were three brothers, and I forgot the other guy's name. I forgot his brother's name. But anyway, one of the things that his younger brother, we talked about his younger brother being basically a sociopath. Now, he went through a haunting in New Mexico. Or was it New Mexico or Arizona? Now that I don't have the notes in front of me. But he was 7 years in a haunted house, and then he started going through alien abduction, which I thought was interesting. It was just like the opposite. And I had gone over that case with...
Wasn't that Arizona?
I think it was Arizona, yeah. I went over that case with Christopher Jordan, but there was somebody else I think I talked to about it. I think it was Christopher Jordan. Me and him talked at length about that case. What's crazy about this is that this guy, it was a lot of times that people will have like like Jesus Payan, the guy from Breaking Bad, right? He has this beginning was like this alien abduction, and then he's been an abductee his whole life, but he's gone through hauntings, but it's like which came first, the haunting or the abduction,
or the cryptids. I mean, he's in your Bigfoot book
too,
because
Bigfoot,
of
yeah. But this person, Cody, ended up going through the haunting for several years, and then even after seeing a UFO, it wasn't until a couple years later when he actually had the abductions. But his brother was witness to some of these abductions, and he was a witness to multiple scenarios of activity from the spiritual side of it. Never affected by it like at all. It was just kind of like, he's a little sociopath. Let's be honest. And now him and his other brother and his sister, they don't even speak to him. They don't talk to him at all. Like, he's just kind of out there doing whatever he does, and he's not a part of their life. Well, I got this story from another person who I thought was very interesting, and she was saying that she had a husband who was very much a sociopathic type person, and the stuff that went on in her house was unbelievable. And this guy was just like Kevin Spacey on Seven, like, I didn't hear that, you know. And she was like, he never would raise his voice or anything, but he was very, mentally abusive and just kind of doing like passive aggressive, snotty things all the time. And then actually pulled some stunt on her that almost got her killed. Needless to say, she's not with this dirtbag anymore, but he was very much a witness to all of the haunting phenomena, and then tried to gaslight her and tell her, after they completely 100% together with another person, saw full-on like spiritual, had full-on spiritual encounters, and the other person even had to tell him, like, look, you're lying. Because he denied remembering it or denied seeing it. And some of it was pretty gruesome. Like there was this shadow thing, and I don't want to get all into it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it on the show on Friday. We'll talk a little bit about it before the guest comes on. But I thought it was just unbelievable, like how gaslighted she was by this guy. Seeing these encounters and probably having them himself, and then just being in complete denial, but it not affecting him. And I wonder about that, because if somebody's like a psychotic, sociopathic type person, how much energy really is a spirit going to get out of them? If you're an evil entity, what are you going to get out of that person? Because if you can't startle them or really make them afraid, because they're incapable of other than.
Well, and if they're surrounded by, or if they have easier prey like right next to that person, then why even bother the person? I mean, like all predators are gonna go for the easiest prey. That's just how it works.
One of the things, though, that she did tell me was he got locked up at one point, and they ended up doing, because he actually killed an animal. Claimed that it was on accident, but it didn't appear that way, and he did get picked up, and he was subsequently diagnosed as having a dissociative personality and being very sociopathic, whatever. He denied it. They couldn't prove that he did what they claimed he did. He got out. He did admit to her that he didn't feel love or compassion for people. He didn't understand it. He didn't grasp it. But he did not have any sort of fear of these entities that they were encountering on a regular basis. He didn't have any. And she's pretty sure that he wasn't the one sending them. I asked that question if he was into witchcraft or whatever. But she said that it was like he did not have fear. He did not experience terror or panic. And he was not like in a normal, as a normal person would. They would experience like, increased heart rate, something. But she said, dude, like after their one encounter, she bought one of these. We have one. What are those things called? She said the finger puff. She told me exactly what they're called.
The thing that takes your oxygen and your pulse.
She said that it was a pulsometer or whatever it's called. She said the name of it. But she got one of those, and right after they had this encounter, and because her heart was beating really fast, and her doctor said she was under an extreme amount of stress. She was middle-aged. And this guy was about 10 years younger than her, which I think that was a mistake right there, because I don't think he was interested in anything but maybe her money. And I told her that. Oximeter, there you go. Pulsometer. I'm tired, but it's been a long weekend. But she put this thing on his finger, and his pulse was like 60. Like what had just happened was a terrifying, and like I said, I'll talk about it on Friday. But it was like this terrifying incident that took place, and he was just like I said, Kevin Spacey in Seven, like, like it didn't bother him a bit. Didn't matter to her. She and him both witnessed, just for one example, a shadow right in front of their bathroom. He just looked at her, looked at him, and he just looked over at her. She looked at him, and he just walked off like, oh, well. Like, was completely unfazed and unaffected by this stuff. So I wish we could be that way, but without the sociopathy, it's like just, you know. Oh man. But anyway, folks, it says, what is this here? Lakesha says, or is it Laksha says, in certain work or orders, they search for people like that. Psychopath or sociopath. Maybe if you had to deal with scary entities, psychopath could be better because he or she may not feel the fear. Yeah.
Well, I mean, those people did have a purpose. You would want those people back in the day to go to war for you. So having that kind of emotionless, fearless state.
I was reading someone's comment there. Yeah, Gorelord 13 is talking about Dorothy Campbell's comment. I'm going to say this. There was a time when I could sit here with a straight face and tell you that I cared more about animals than people. Now I can tell you that I care about both. I can tell you that I never hated people. I just didn't like the things people did, and I preferred to not have to deal with them, but I didn't have to. But you have to. And one of the things I can say is we should love people as much as we love ourselves, and we should love people as much as we love animals. It's not healthy to think of, well, I love animals, but I hate people. So the more free will and the more higher intellect a being has, you choose to hate them. Now, I get if you say you hate people because there's so many crappy, bad things that people do. But to say that, I can't, I hate everybody, but I love animals, sort of a cop-out.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I was actually just going to call it a cop-out because animals, like I've always been good with animals. Animals have always loved me. But like what we have to realize that it's easy to get along with animals and children because they don't think for themselves, that they can't think for themselves. They really don't have their own will. I mean, if they tell you no, then you can just force your will on them. I guess what I'm saying is that you can mold them into what you want them to be, like a reflection of you or whatever purpose you want them to serve. But people are different. People are much more complex, and it takes a lot more patience, a lot more compassion, a lot more understanding, just a lot more wisdom to be good with people, to be able to reach their minds, to speak to them on their level, to meet them where they're at, and to try and explain things in a way that they would learn them. But you have to learn how they learn, and then learn how you can teach them things in ways that they will learn. I guess the whole point is that it is kind of a cop-out to say like, oh, I love people. I mean, I love animals, but I hate people. But what you're really hating is the effort that you have to put forth to show love and compassion for a human being. That's the hard thing. It's easy to love a dog. It's easy to love your cat. It's easy to love a little kid.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. I mean, it takes so much less effort to be truly compassionate to an animal than it does to a human.
Yeah. And folks, I want to thank everybody who donated tonight. Red Harvest, Artistic Bunny, Jordan Cogburn, everybody who gave donations, Larry Fisher, Cat Hunter in particular. And guys definitely made our night.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, there's been some slow days in work here lately. And some kind of had a slow month last month. Typically August being an 8-month, we do pretty well, but we had a slower than usual August, and trying to recover from the conference has been a daunting task, to say the least. Even trying to work extra, we're still just KD7 says, another great show. Thank you, PRT crew. Thank you for joining us. Lojo, you were in the chat last night on Bettina's channel, and I was surprised that you had mentioned that Josh Nonocchio had, what's his face, Joe Barger. He's a good friend of mine, but Joe Barger on there. But you didn't know that he was on my show. We had all kinds of problems on that show because 700 something people, and then it collapsed. And I do believe it was because of the subject matter, which is one of the reasons why somebody had asked me, well, why has Lance Hightower not been on your live stream? And Lance knows. I mean, I've talked to him about it. We've talked about it a couple times, just like Bettina knows. It's just not a smart thing to do, because if we get him on here,
there are certain things you can't talk about.
yeah, you can't talk about it on the live stream, and they'll just probably kick us right out, and it's just like, good grief. And so we just kind of like decided, we agreed that when we do something, we're going to have to record. Now, hopefully, the powers that be will allow us to record with Melba Ketchum. Now, we've already tried. We tried twice in one night, and it didn't work out. And Ona Holly says, PRT is the best podcast on YouTube. I like to think so. I think it's the best podcast that's ever existed, but that's just my opinion. I'm a little biased.
Well, we're award winning, so we have a little bit more.
We did. We won the Jago Award, and sort of it was presented to us at the conference. We're going to bring you it and show it to you so we can stick it in your face and be like, see, we're award winners.
Yeah, so you have to listen to us.
Yeah. But, I mean, and congratulations to Expanded Perspectives for our friends Kyle and Cameron who were at the conference. They actually just had their 10th year anniversary. And I was telling Cameron, I was like, what the heck? You guys were saying that you guys had been, we were on the phone with them a few months ago. They're like, oh, been around for 8 years. Like, you don't even know how long you've been around? I was like, I thought you guys were over twice as old as we were, or at least as far as our show. But and then it's like, oh, 10 years. Okay, that makes more sense, So anyways, tonight I hope you guys had some food for thought. Maybe you had some questions answered. Maybe it made more questions. I don't know. But you got Dogman low crawling next to your truck, running out in front of you. I don't know why. You have Bigfoot in the water trying to grab people.
Physically creepy ghosts.
Ghosts that can do things that are just that feel like invisible people attacking you. I don't know. I mean, what is this crazy world we live in? We were at the collectors convention today, and we had one guy that was. It's funny too because Tony, he's Chinese and Vietnamese, and was she his girlfriend? I don't know if Ariel was that guy.
Well, I don't know. I assumed because like the dog they referred to as our dog, so that's all I had to go on.
Okay. So whenever you talk, please put the camera on you so we can know who's talking. Because God forbid they should confuse you with Mushu. Because then later on y'all get upset when somebody says Mushu said, and then you don't like it when people call you Anthony. So if you put the camera on, people will know who's talking. So yeah, novel idea. Yeah. But
I stopped caring.
Yeah, I can see that for right now. But one of the things that was said was about Antarctica and was brought up and he talked about the flat Earth, and then we started getting into pond theory, which I brought up. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a flat earther, but I am also not a globe earther, and people are going to be like, what? Like if you're shocked by that, you're at the wrong station. I've already been through this before. I don't have a full-on opinion about it at this point, and I'll tell you why. I've talked to many, many, many pilots, and one of which was from Las Vegas, and it was back, it was the national championship, and it was 2020. I think it had just turned, it was the playoffs. I'm sorry, the college playoffs up in and we were in San Antonio. We were staying at the hotel. I don't know what hotel was that. I can't remember which one that was. It was out there on the Riverwalk. I don't remember which one. We were at the hotel bar, though.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And
it was like a Marriott.
Was it the Marriott? I think. Oh yeah, it was the Marriott.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting there at the hotel bar, and there was this guy there, and he was a pilot. And he's not the first, and he wasn't the last to tell me, as he started kind of going around, he eventually got to the, and he was talking about a place. I think it was a bar or something right outside of Las Vegas. I think it was Prim. I'm not 100%. I could be completely way off. It's been a while. But he was talking about it being haunted, and we got into it about the haunting and all. We were talking. Very nice guy. We bought each other a round of drinks, and him and his wife, and we were there and watching the game. And it was that weird time. What was it like? That the week after Christmas or before? Like how many days was it after Christmas? Like 3 or 4 days after Christmas, something like that. And so then, anyways, when we did the trip, it was Christmas, and then it was like 2 or 3 days. We were there for 2 or 3 days. We went to SeaWorld. We did all kinds of stuff.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and your brother was there too, Anthony. And this guy tells me, he says, dude, why do you think that planes have to go way out of their way and then go, And he was bringing up some very good points. And I was just like, this is interesting. But it wasn't the first time, and it wasn't the last time that somebody has said that, and it's particular pilots. Like I said before, I think on the show, my friend's dad did not believe, he worked for NASA, and did not believe in the Earth as the way that we think it is. Never came fully out and said, hey, I believe the Earth is flat, nothing like that. But he just would always say that the Earth was not the way we thought it was. And there are no real good photos of Antarctica from space. Why is that? It's all like renderings. I kind of wonder this, and I've wondered this before. And of course, you had Admiral Byrd who went to the inner Earth, and everybody that's gone there subsequently, everybody thinks, oh, this is ridiculous, whatever. So whenever you start going down that direction, people start really getting upset and being like, they're like, oh, no, you're a flat earther. They call you flathead and all this other stuff. In particular, people from the UFO community, they don't want the idea of a flat earth being even thought of, because it would kind of destroy what they believe to be some sort of theories that they have about aliens and stuff like that, but I don't think it really matters. Now, this is what was a conversation that was brought up today. I didn't bring it up. It was him. He brought up the flat earth. What I told him was this, and this is my official stance on it right now. I'm going to tell you right now. I have always thought that there was more going on than what we know or think. I don't believe that the world is just that's it. This is the way it is. And I'm going to tell you this, and this may sound kind of confusing, but I believe that there are layers, in particular like 7 to maybe 8 layers of reality. And there's a pond theory that goes like, hey, there's this world and there's another world, and what we could be dealing with is an ice shelf all the way around. It's very possible. Why do you think that the map on the UN looks the way it does? It's like from the top, and everything it's round, like a circle, but not a globe, and it just looks like it's all the countries. Now, look at the map of the UN and tell me why it looks that way. Very, very strange. Somebody says a flat Earth airline pilot. Yep, a flat Earth airline pilot. Multiple, not one, multiple flat Earth airline pilots. One guy that I talked to claimed to work for Southwestern Airlines years ago. He's retired, and he has messaged me on multiple occasions trying to get me to talk about the flat Earth. Do I believe it? I don't know what to believe at this point. Do I believe? I still kind of cling to the idea that we're on a globe, but I'm not for sure I don't believe the Earth is flat either. If it's not a globe, then it looks like a piece of chewed up bubblegum. That is my official stance on it, is that I really don't have enough information to say that it is flat or not a globe, but I don't have enough information to say, oh, it's a globe. And none of us really do. Now, all we have is to go by is a few people's word, and if they're being honest or not.
I believe it's the paranormal round Earth. All right, I think we're all gonna get to a point to where we realize what it actually is, and once we do that, or once that's allowed to be shown to us, then we'll slowly start to figure out some other avenues of this other crap that is being hidden from us. But, you know, it's like the aliens now, and the government saying that aliens are real. It's like, okay, now that you've told us this, what are you hiding that you're okay with showing us this now?
Yeah, and I'm not one of the, like I said, I'm not a person who's going to sit here and say that I believe in the flat earth, because that's, if I believe in something, I'm going to tell you I believe in it, because I don't know what to believe. You know, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's interesting that there are pilots out there saying that that's not round, that it's not a globe. And here at PRT, I give you the information of what I think and what I, you know. And this is one subject that I just can't really put my finger on, because I don't know. And I haven't made up my mind about it. You know, I used to think, man, just even a few years ago, like, everything was the way it was, a certain way. Now things are so not the way we thought they were, that who the hell knows. But it really wouldn't matter where there is or not, because these beings can come through stargates. They can bend space and time. It doesn't matter. Shade Viking says the sphere is the perfect shape, and that's why orbs are spheres. The world is a giant orb of energy. Yeah, I don't totally believe that, but I do believe that there's a lot of energy, and I do believe that our souls are spherical at some point, you know, and I do believe that orbs, of course, exist. There's tons of people who've seen them. It's a very common thing, but I wouldn't necessarily say that the Earth is a sphere because of that. I don't know. Like in the book of Enoch, it talks about the Earth not being, you know, a sphere. But, you know, here's what I'm going to ask, though. Give me your opinions on that. Tell me what you think. And tell me what you think. And it all ties into the nature of reality. We have to be open-minded to get to the bottom of some of these mysteries. But like I said, I'm not a flat earther. You know, not at this point in my life. You got to show me something, you know, besides just some people saying, hey, you know, this is what's going on. I can say officially that I'm not, you know. But, you know, I once thought that Dogman was probably more flesh and blood than spiritual. Now I'm kind of the opposite. I think it's more spiritual than flesh and blood. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist in the flesh. And we don't discount anything. So, anyways, folks, that's all for today. That's my rant, and I hope people don't take it wrong or say that go out saying that I'm a flat earther, because I'm not, because I don't know. And I don't think there's enough evidence to make a call on it one way or the other. But hopefully someday we will. Corley Canner says, I don't really consider the subject of flat earth a mystery. It's not. That's your opinion, Corley. That opinion is shared by a lot of people. But it was also Copernicus who brought that whole thing up years ago, and it was just kind of stuck. Now, there are people that'll say, oh, it's flat, and that's their opinion, and they're entitled to say that it's flat. But, you know, it's not going to change your opinion of what they believe, and they're not going to change their opinion of what you believe. So it's just what it is, you know. So you believe what you want. Everybody's entitled to their own belief. I don't know what I believe when it comes to that. I mean, there's a lot of people who've given me a lot of information, and I don't know. Some people believe there's a firmament above us, you know. Do you believe that? I don't know. It's something that we may explore in the future, you know. Dick Richard says, are you spinning at 26,000 miles? I'm not, that's for sure. Well, and it says, if the Earth is flat, Empty String says, the tidal forces upon rotation would be massive. Yeah. I mean, you're saying the moon, like that if the Earth was flat, the tidal would make it massive. I don't know. I know if you start thinking of this whole world as in like like in a matrix, I don't think it really matters whether it's flat or round. You know, like if you told me right now I had to make a choice between round and flat, I'd say it's round because I don't know. I do believe it's a circle, but I don't know how. But if I had to choose one or the other, I'd say round because I haven't seen enough evidence. But it is interesting to think about these things. I mean, who knows? And you can always listen to people's opinions without letting it affect your mind. If you're capable of just kind of looking at things objectively, there's a lot of interesting things out there. There are people who believe that the Loch Ness Monster is a complete fabrication. Others believe it was an alien. I heard that theory, which is pretty interesting. And I was like, First, I was just kind of like, what? And then when they started talking, I was like, oh, it makes sense in some ways. And then the people who believe it's a ghost. Do I believe those things? No, not really. But do I entertain the idea that there could be? I don't know. People say there's people that live in the moon. Do they live in the moon? We don't know. They're living in the Earth, in the underneath Mars. Who knows? All right, folks. That and many other mysteries we'll keep exploring. That's the
That's PRT.
That's
what
PRT.
we do.
It's what we do. So Corley Canada is answering Dick Richards. Says, Dick Richards, the Earth has an environment that keep the mass of all objects moving at the same speed around the sun, just like a cup of soda in your car can move at 70 miles per hour. I mean, yeah, that makes sense right there. But anyway, guys, I'll see you. We love you, and we will see you on Tuesday. 2 encounters of Dogman attacks.
Really good.
Really, really good stories, and we retold them. And we'll see what happens. Hopefully this week we'll get recording. We'll get these people. We'll get some stuff, and we'll have it ready for Thursday. So then you'll get two podcast episodes Thursday?
Yeah.
Tuesday and Thursday, right?
Yeah.
An
And then
interview,
you'll get me-
and then the normal one. And then on Fridays you'll have an interview again, and on Sunday it's a normal one as well.
Yeah. Friday is the
live stream.
Live stream interviews.
Sunday is the live stream, and then I'm going to be doing a show on Saturdays with Bettina. I actually feel sorry for people who only listen to the podcast because
They really do miss out.
they miss out on a bunch, and then they're just like, "Oh no, I'm not. I don't listen to the live stream. Nope, I never do. I like being ignorant as hell. I'm gonna sit out here and just be ignorant as hell."
I mean,
And there's one guy like we were friends until he just his absolute refusal to listen to the live stream, and then he would constantly message me and ask me questions that were being answered and things that were being talked about in the live stream because all he listens to is the podcast, and he absolutely refuses to listen to the live stream. And so I got tired of it, and I just finally snapped at him. Wasn't trying to be rude or ugly, but I was just like, "Look, dude, if you listen to the live stream, you could stop bothering me, and you would know that you wouldn't be aggravating me with this." And so I kind of was rude to him. I wasn't trying to be, but it was like bombarded with questions. I don't mind questions. I don't mind people sending me questions and asking things. But that was just kind of starting to aggravate me because I kept telling him, we're talking about that on the live stream. Oh, okay, yeah. But he never would tune in. But he wanted me to give him a play-by-play of everything going on that wasn't a part of the podcast. And if I did that, I'd be here from now until, the end of time. I don't have time to sit here and tell you everything that's going on outside of the podcast. The podcast is an hour every week. You're only going to get so much from that.
I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why we started up the interviews on Thursday, because we were thinking, there's so many people out there that don't watch our live stream, that aren't fans of us on YouTube, that are missing out on so much. So it's like we wanted to give them something else as well, because we did increase the live stream, so you guys are getting so much more. So, it was a bit...
Yeah.
We're trying to balance it a little, I guess.
Once again, thank you for everybody who donated. We really appreciate it, and we want to see you again we'll see you on Tuesday. It's not live now. That's another thing people keep asking me if they think it's live because there's a chat. there is a chat that you can be in, and you can actually donate on that chat too. Somebody asked me about that. And yes, Paul, you can donate on chat for the show on Tuesday. So if you're asking about doing that or whatever, when he can't make the lives, he can't catch it because of his schedule, but he can watch the two. He can make the lives. He can watch the replays. But he wanted to be able to donate, and so he told me he's off on Tuesday. So you can watch. So you, Paul, can watch on Tuesdays. And I'm addressing not just him, but everybody who's in that situation. But he asked about donating, and I said you could donate. And there's a chat, right? Super chat.
Yeah, well, what that is well, what Anthony has is set up to where it'll premiere, and then we'll set up a live chat so that you guys can all interact with each other. So that you guys can all interact with each other as you're watching that. It's recorded. You know, we're not there for the most part. I mean, I might pop in every once in a while, but for the most part, it's just mostly the PRT fans that are in the live chat talking and speaking to each other. Because that's already recorded show, but it still interacts like a regular live. So if you want to do super chats or you want to sign up for the membership or whatever, it'll all still work.
Yeah. Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters is like, howdy everyone. You showed up late. Is that a show? Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters? Wondering. Lo just says, I have learned so much since watching, except how to spell. Yeah, except would be AEX, but that's fine. Whatever you want to. And so that's pretty much it. All right. So thank you so much for everybody who's shows up and listens to the podcast episodes, which are always also on YouTube on the Tuesdays. Everybody who's going to show up and listen on Thursday to the interviews, and then everybody's going to show up on Friday and does show up on Friday for the guests that we have on the live stream, and then for the live stream on Sunday. Thank you to everyone, and good night.